Hey, I'm Chey. I love Beartooth's album, The Surface, and I'm here to tell you what! Ready? Rolling. Hi. Let's talk about The Surface. Or, I want to, but I gotta be honest, something's just not quite right. What is it? Something just feels off. What? Hold on a second. That's better. At least, it's mostly better. What is there to say about this album? Well, there's quite a lot. But first, I'm Disclaimer Chey. You can tell because I have a hat. Disclaimer Chey is here to tell you that if you're here for a serious critical review of the album, this ain't it. This ain't it. This is not an objective review. This is just rapid fire, just full-on ADHD-fueled, inspired, just pure, passionate love for an album. Me rambling, ranting in a good way, just absolutely riffing off my shit. I have some bullet points. That's a lie. I was originally going to make some bullet points for this video of things that I wanted to discuss. It's unusual for me to say this, but whenever I'm doing reviews, I often find it hard to just riff, because it takes me off track and I need to gather my thoughts, because my thoughts are just like this. Except for when it comes to music. Whenever I start talking about something specific in music, a song or an album, whatever it may be, I end up branching off into some more abstract territory that I did not realize I was going to wander into, but it is elaborating on a larger point that I started off with, and I'm like, it's kind of intellectual. Who am I? That's not to say I'm an Einstein. I'm worse. This is my favorite band, and this is possibly one of my favorite albums they put out. So TLDR, I'm just going to save you some time. If you're looking for a critical review, see you later. I mean, you're welcome to stay, but this is not what you're looking for. What is this going to be instead, now that disclaimers are over? And also, it's getting hot in that. It's getting hot in here. I turned my fan off so it could sound good on all the audio. I am not the vocalist, for a reason. I've wanted to talk about this album since it came out, and I kind of already have in several different ways. I talked about it a lot in my almost 3-hour-long release vlog. I've talked about it in the Riptide video, but I haven't done just a sit-down video for this album, discussing this album in its entirety at length. I wanted to in the release vlog, but as I said in the vlog, I'm like, this vlog would be way too long, which it already was already. And so I was like, I'm gonna put it in a different video. Because especially if Riptide, which by itself is a 30-minute video, what's gonna happen with this one? That being said, I will not be discussing Riptide at length in this video. I will be discussing it, of course I'm going to talk about it, it's one of my favorite songs. But because I've already just dived in extensively on it, I'll just link the video in the cards above and put it in the description below. That way you can go see my entirety of thoughts on that, and make this video just a little bit shorter. My ADHD peeps, I'm looking out for you. I should not have chosen to wear this hoodie for the video. It's so hot. This has been my most chaotic intro to a video ever, and I'm sorry. What this video will be is just me rambling and ranting about how much I love this album, why I love this album. I originally was struggling with how I was going to structure this video, where it was going to be more scripted, or if it was just going to be riffing off the cuff. If I wanted to just talk about more of my feelings of the album, kind of reactions, versus actual kind of mixing analysis, or just analyzing the little bits in the songs that I love. And I've kind of just decided it's gonna be everything. Except for scripted. I'm not doing scripted. I literally have no plans for this video except to just talk about the album and what I love about it and things that stood out to me. The only structure that's going to be in this video is that I'm going to go in track list order of the album. The rest? Well, good luck, Charlie. Okay, I lied. There is one little last disclaimer. I didn't work on this album. I'm not Beartooth. Obviously, take everything I say as my opinion only. I can only speak for myself. Also, if you totally disagree with me on these songs, if you hate one of these songs but love the rest of the songs on the album, or you think what I say is complete and utter total crap, and you're like, that's not that at all, that's valid, you're allowed. But don't be a douche about it. No, but seriously, if there are songs on this album that, you know, we disagree on, or we have opinions we disagree on, We're allowed to disagree. We're allowed as humans to have differing opinions and still be nice. I am not the arbiter of everything music-related opinion. Thank God for that. I can only speak for me. I'm not speaking for them. I'm not speaking for you. This is just for me to ramble my little soul out, if my soul wasn't already gone. I'm also going to be inserting clips from the songs to illustrate my specific points that I'm making, and this video is going to get copyright claimed anyway. But I figure that's better than me trying to mimic the sound effects. Trust me, you don't want to hear it. All my worries were a waste of time. The Surface. Blackbird Sessions. The opening song, The Surface, is honestly, I think, the best opening song I have ever heard on an album. Most definitely, at least in recent memory. I can't think of another one off the top of my head that I think is better. Like an actual opening song. There's opening tracks that are really good, but like a song? I can't think of a better one. So, The Surface, I have to give myself something to do while I'm talking or else I'm gonna drive myself crazy. So, The Surface is the best intro song I've ever heard. First off, you start with, turn it up.
Turn it up.
Mother... Hold on. Hold up. Hold on. Hold up. I'm in love. Immediately. I'm like, alright. Listen, ever since I listened to Autograph's Turn Up the Radio, and it starts with that down, like, you know, just love it. Love it. Love it. Love to see it. 2 seconds in, we get Turn It Up. I was like, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Oh my god, it's happening. People, it's happening. I'm just making this worse and worse. I'm gonna get my banjo out. Do you mind if I get my banjo out to fidget with it? You motherfuckers thought I was kidding about having a banjo. I look like I'm kidding? I look like I'm kidding. Now how do I open it? Something I really love about the Turn It Up, not only is it just like a call to action, but it's also an almost auditory trick. I hate to say trick because it's not really a trick, but it's like immediately crowd or audience participation. And it's kind of the same effect you would have live of someone being like, how are we feeling tonight? You know, kind of thing. It immediately sucks in the person that's also participating and makes them participate more. It inspires them to participate more. It sets the tone for like, hey, we're gonna rock the hell out. I'm gonna try to rein in my cursing on this video so that way I don't have to keep editing in a derp face of some musician while I add a bleep. I gotta do my best not to channel the ghost of Beartooth and just drop the F-bomb every 10 seconds. Wheel dealy wishes. I'm sorry for what I just did at this banjo. It's been 8 minutes and I haven't even gotten through the intro. This fidget toy is not working. Turn It Up is a call to action, and I mentioned this in the vlog. You're gonna hear that phrase probably a lot, and I'm sorry, but apologizing in advance. It reminds me of the same essence that was done with Greatness or Death on the Disease intro opening track. Could I have said that any more complicatedly? Yeah, like that. If you haven't listened to Disease, if you're new to Beartooth, or you just haven't listened to the track Greatness or Death, it starts out real low. That is an auditory trick. It's a playful trick to get you to turn it up, so then when it kicks in, you're like, oh my god! It's really, really cool. This track kinda does the same thing, but in a different flavor. And you might be like, Chey, that's obvious, but no, it's not. Because whereas Greatness or Death is kinda just, it draws you in because you're like, oh, is my speaker, like, is my volume turned down that low? And then sometimes it may make you reach back for the volume to turn it back down. You're like, oh, and it's like, oh, haha, kind of laugh at yourself, and you're into it, and you're involved, and you're like, hell yeah. This has the different flavor of like, oh, that's the energy? Okay. They're both real good energies. They're both real good flavors, real good vibes. I'm a fan of both. But I don't know, there's just something so very hype about the intro, about that Turn It Up. I've spent way too long just talking about that, but that sets the tone for this video. Am I gonna be doing that every time I make a point? Probably. So then the song actually kicks in. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I think something like this intro song really reflects the place that Tooth is at right now in their stage performances. Because this song starts out with the turn it up, and then it's just living reckless, living fast, I don't have time for it. Might have pushed it to the limit, but I'm not dead yet. Drop it. It just goes into 110 pretty much daggum immediately. It goes from 0 to 100 in half a second.
Living reckless, living fast, don't have time for regret.
And then it's just that same energy throughout the entire song. It's that same hype. It's that same let's fucking go. And you know what? Don't get that excited. I mean, yes, that's kind of the point. And you know what? I think that perfectly reflects where Tooth is at right now in their stage performances, because last time I saw them live, which is also a video up on this channel, I will not be filming the next show. I'm just going to be focused on losing my mind. Also, you don't need to see me screaming at You Never Know Again. Let's go! I don't want more security guards laughing at me. The last time we saw them at Marathon, it was literally non-stop. And I have always said that Beartooth has the best energy of a band I've ever seen live. I've just always loved their energy. They feel like they're constantly giving 300%. I have never felt like I've seen a lazy or a bored or anything like that. A slack. I've never caught Tooth slacking. That's what I'm gonna say. I never caught Tooth live slacking. But in previous Tooth shows, like a lot of metalcore shows, there were often songs that were kind of like breaks for the crowd, not like total breaks. You know, sometimes they're like, yeah, like we need a break. We need like a slower song because the crowd's going that hard, which, you know, it's fine, whatever. But this felt like there was no breaks. In a good way. It just felt like it was nonstop. It felt like the fastest Beartooth show I've ever seen in my life. Not because they necessarily played quicker, not because they played a shorter set, just because it was going that hard, that much energy, that fast all the time. I think my pedometer on my iPhone said like I went 4 miles or something. That's how much I was jumping. It was just constant off your feet, get up and go energy, and I think this song, the energy of this song perfectly encapsulates that. Starting off with the might have pushed it to the limit, but I'm not dead yet. Holy sh**. Holy sh**. Bruh!
Might have pushed it to the limit, but I'm not dead yet. Drop it!
That's one of my most favorite recent lines I've ever heard in a song. And it's honestly just my aesthetic I've been trying to live by for like the past year and a half, so to hear it like that is like, yeah. Yeah. What's interesting too is that if you played this song next in comparison to the last riff, it feels like breaching the surface. That I don't mean that to be a pun, but it really does. I wrote an article for my university radio station when Below came out, and I had a paragraph on the last riff, and I talked about how cinematic the song was, and how to me, it sounded like the end of a movie shot, the final scene of a movie where it's kind of like a zombie apocalypse movie, and it's like a devastated city behind the protagonist is like they're war-weary and like sweaty and covered in blood, but yet they're still alive and they're marching on and they made it, and the camera shot is them walking away from the devastation. I don't mean that to be a Below pun, it just happened to work. And they're walking towards like the sunrise. I somehow explained it similar, something like that. That's how the last riff feels to me, and the surface feels like just breaking up out of a grave, fully formed, fully back alive, being like, you. The surface is like the hero, the protagonist of that final scene in the movie, finally got some gosh darn sleep, got some protein, and is just ready to John Wick every motherfucker. And when I tell you the amount of feral I go when might have pushed it to the limit, but I'm not dead yet, drop it. I was in my car the first time I listened to this album all the way through because I was driving on my way to get the Below vinyl copy that came in my indie record store that day. When I tell you I literally screamed in my car, I had to rewind the song because I screamed that long and that loud. It hit my little ADHD stems just right where they need to be, just sucker punched in the best way possible. It made me want to snap my neck headbanging. And I wanted to, but I couldn't because I was driving. Which, that was an ill-fated, ill-sighted thing on my part to drive and listen to this album at the same time. I don't recommend it on your first listen. You will become a danger to yourself and others. I have caught myself speeding quite a lot to doubt me. and so I have to change it. Something that I think I originally pointed out in the video for Riptide was how in the song the mix makes use of space. When it comes to mixes, space is exactly what you think I'm talking about. It's the room in the music itself. You know whether a song or music sounds really crowded or if it sounds kind of sparse. And something that I mentioned in the Riptide video is it's a really delicate balance to be able to do well, and it also depends on what you're trying to get across in the song, the moods you're trying to get across in the song, the effect you're trying to have on the listener. It will differ for every song, for every artist, for every occasion. There is no wrong way to do it, because as an audio engineering, like we like to say, you don't want to do it that way unless that's what you want. Riptide to me, and I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I promise this is context for this song. Riptide, I believe, is a song that makes the most of its elements of space in order to tell a story, in order to get its message and vibes across. Because it's not just about vibes, it's about the atmosphere you're wanting to set up, right? And so a lot of times it's like, it's not that deep. Which, fair enough. But I made a 30-minute video about this crap, okay? I have opinions. The use of space in Riptide is so excellently done, it really drives home the points and differing elements of Riptide that make it as strong a mix as it does. And listening to the intro track of The Surface, I keep differentiating saying the intro track because the name of the album is also The Surface. I can see in Riptide now, since Riptide was a single, came out before the album, now looking at the album and especially the intro track is not only a great introduction to the album sound-wise, vibe-wise, feelings-wise, attitude, all of that. It's a great setup for all that, just primer nailing it. But for the mix-wise as well, there are masterful elements of mixing on this album, and I think they fully start with the song The Surface. The element that is introduced in this song that really shines throughout the rest of the album is the concept of give and take in the space. Because there's the element of space where you can have sparse or crowded noise, but there's also the give and take elements of that, right? Because sometimes you want to give more space. You want to cut to an acoustic part suddenly in a song and just let it breathe for a bit sometimes. Or you just want to straight up hammer home some stuff and you just make it crowded all the way through. Or maybe you have it sparse at the beginning and then it hits really hard and it's really crowded. And I don't mean crowded in a negative sense, I just mean in comparison to sparse. The use of give and take of space on this album as an element is executed beautifully. It starts out at the very beginning of the song, right? Where we have that just turn it up and then right into it.
Turn it up.
You have that space and you're just crowding it immediately. And when it comes to playing around with give and take of space, right? Sometimes you want it to be startling. Sometimes you want it to be jarring. You want the audience to be like, whoa, whoa, like greatness or death. Sometimes you want to draw people in and just bam. Sometimes you just want people to chill out and relax. It all depends on what you're doing. It all depends on what you want. And when you start doing it more often in a song, especially just in little spaces here and there, and then giving and then taking, and then giving and then taking, sometimes it can be way too jarring. Sometimes you want it to be way too jarring. Sometimes the message of the music is to disturb and, unnerve people. Which, fair enough, if that's what you want. But most times, for a lot of people, that is not what they want. And it can become a little bit too jarring. It can take people out of it. It can just feel, like they're being the shaken baby syndrome. Probably a little bit too harsh of a metaphor. But it feels like whiplash. I was gonna say not the good kind, but is there a good kind? The movie? Being able to implement the give and take at the right times in order to achieve what you want, in order to keep people engaged and bring them along with you, it's not easy to do. There are some key producers, key engineers in my brain that are able to do this amazingly. Sam, I'm thinking of him, especially on the We Were Sharks albums, and I think this album is full of examples. And it all starts with The Surface. This isn't going to be a full-on mixing analysis, but this is just something that I noticed and I think it's really interesting and I want to chat about it. So we have the turn it up, which is the space bringing you in and then diving you right on in. You get thrown on in, right? But then as we come into the first verse, you have the pre-verse, if you want to call it that. But then when you come into the first verse, you have like this choral introduction to it. And then you have Caleb coming in with the vocals just rah, rah. That's what he sounds like to my ears. I'm sorry. No, it's not. But I am not going to attempt to do the screamy screams because I can't. No one wants that. But when he comes in with the lyrics to that first verse and it's going through, it's very crowded. You have all the instrumentation and Caleb's vocal kind of just, you know, it just... And it's not fighting with each other, it's not overcrowding each other, but it is just wall. Like, it is just wall of, hey, we're freaking in it. And it's kind of like being in, excuse the pun, it's kind of like being in a Riptide. I don't want to say wall of sound because it's not being bombarded, it's not overwhelming. But then when you have Caleb coming in for that first verse, you have the instrumentation right behind him, and it's crowded, it's all together, it's unanimous. It's all together in unity, and it all feels about the same level, it all is the same energy. It's just this ball of steel wool. This ball of steel wool that has... this is gonna sound ridiculous. This ball of steel wool that has duct tape haphazardly placed on the edges, and then you have little bits of the pink lint sticking out of it, and it's sitting on a concrete floor. That's what my synesthesia gives me, okay? Picture a ball of tape. You ever made a masking ball tape? Picture that, but like mesh wiring with some duct tape just kind of around it, with some lint on it, on a concrete floor, but like you're slamming it. That's what I get. And you're just taken along on this ride of just full volume, full throttle until you get to the pre-chorus. Then we come to the pre-chorus, and what happens? It's all shrunk back. That space comes back, but it's not jarring because everything is brought down to that level. It's equalized, not in the EQ sense. Well, I'm sure it is, but everything is equal. It fits along with the lead of the song, which in mixing, there's a saying that vocals are king. It's a little bit sexist if you ask me, but vocals reign supreme. That's typically the thought process behind a lot of mixing. And I don't say that to imply that that's Caleb's policy of how he mixes. I just bring it up as an example to showcase how the instrumentation is kind of following the lead of the tone of the vocal in terms of volume, in terms of attitude, just to give you an idea or a reference point of kind of what I'm getting at.
Take a look around, there's nobody left.
So we have all this space that is suddenly just given to us, right, in comparison to about 5 seconds ago. And the vocals are no longer screaming, they're just almost talking. And you have this stripped back instrumentation, and it's keeping steady pace with the vocal throughout. You just have dun 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 dun. It's just following the pace, and it's a little bit of breathing room. So you were sucked in, you were driving force home, and then do you know what happens when there's a lot of noise and then suddenly there's not that much noise? Do you know what happens? Your ears perk up. Your ears perk up. That's what they do. Our little caveman brains just sense danger, danger, because guess what? Silence is scarier than noise. At least to the caveman brain, because all of a sudden going from noisy to silent says, wait a second, predator, something scarier has scared all the other things and I need to be paying attention. That means hide. So our little ears, our little caveman brains perk up when all of a sudden there's a lack of noise. And it's not always a super strong or like adrenaline response, clearly, but it does just alert the brain that like, hey, change, you know? And so the way to go from that to this makes you perk up because you can be in it all you want, and then when that happens, your brain's gonna go, like a little meerkat. And so that's why it's important to be able to grasp and master such concepts of give and take in space, because you can draw in and draw out your audience with you as you want to get the desired effect of the song you want. And it is the perfect example right here, because you draw people in, even your own ears, and you get to hear more clearly what's being said and getting the lyrics across. It perks up and gets attention. But it can't just perk up and get attention, right? Because you still have to keep the attention. I say as I just got distracted by a noise outside. ADHD, let's go! And so that's where that steady pace keeps coming in, because it allows more emphasis to be put on the lyrics, on the vocals. It's kind of a guiding force to be like, hey, I'm here, listen to me, pay attention to me, but also, it's kind of the natural primal response to be like, okay, same thing. Alright, I know what that is. And then you're listening to the thing that's changing, the lyrics, and you can do both at once, and it allows you to just kind of take it in more intricately, more detailed, when you have two vital elements going on in a way that aren't drastically different from each other, but really coincide in helping each other just bring out their strengths in that. And something that The Surface does that sets the tone for the rest of the album is it kind of subverts expectations, because you can have that steady pace, kind of get the ear used to it, but then there's always something that just draws you back in this way, because you might be like, okay, dun 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 dun, alright, and like listening to the lyrics and be like, yeah, different, but then there's always going to be something over here that makes you go like that. And then you're just like, not shocked, but it's like, it keeps you paying attention. There's always something to find or to notice. It's a way of utilizing the space that is smart, that is efficient, that is engaging, in the best way, practical, but overall just interesting and fun. Part of the most fun thing about music is going back and listening time after time after time and being able to find new things or to notice different things. And that's going to change, you know, with age. It's going to change on what you're listening to, where you're listening at. There were drum sounds that I didn't hear in All Signs Point to Lauderdale until I got a certain pair of headphones. And I was like, wait a minute. But being able to utilize your whole concept of space, y'all are going to get sick of me saying the S word by the time this video is over. But using that in that way shows an awareness and attention to detail that is so minute, which of course everyone knows that Beartooth is known for how detail-oriented the songs are and like getting them perfect and how Beartooth wants them. But this just, it's an example of showcasing that and showing that love and attention to detail and just really keeping it alive. Which we'll get to the point of alive in a few minutes. But the point of suddenly something going like this is when Caleb goes, the end. Well, he doesn't say it like that, Chey, jeez. He's like, this could be the end. I'm just gonna play it.
Vice could be the end. Vitals are critical.
When he says that, all of a sudden the guitar that's just been going dun 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 just goes it has the effect that makes your ear go, wait a second, different. And then you're drawn back into the lyrics because suddenly things start changing. But it's in a way that's not too drastically different from his vocal. If anything, it complements and plays on it almost like it's speaking along with the way, the intonation that he uses on the word, because he kind of draws it out, and then you have the effect on the guitar, like, just kind of trailing off almost as, like, an aura, or, like, a wisp of cold air whenever you speak outside in the winter. It's kind of like the fog that comes off your breath. It feels like a natural continuation of it, but yet it's not it. It's a separate thing. And to be able to create that atmosphere of those things working together, intertwined, shut up. And then, just as you hear that and your ears kind of perk up, like, oh, that's interesting, then it just, and it's his vocal. That little bit of space that you have is just,
This is do or die, it's time to start again.
And if you weren't paying attention before, you are now. It's kind of like a flushing of the system. That seems like a grosser metaphor than what I was going for. But when it gets to the, it's time to start again, and that is just without instrumentation, that's just out there in the ether, it's just that. When there's nothing else around it in the space, what does that tell you? If you see one thing sitting in the middle of a room, what does that tell you? That thing's important. And it's a way of showing it without beating you over the head with it, because guess what? You don't have to be beaten over the head with it. It is impactful by itself, the way it is presented, being shown to you. Or I guess being spoken to you. And it's almost like you take a breath, or it's like letting out a breath. It's a moment of pause. And then right back into it. You hit the chorus and you are just into it again because you've had that moment to breathe, and it's just, all my worries were a waste of time. Like, it's this moment that after, like, taking a breath, taking this pause, that you're just ready to go again. It's a natural flow of energy that just hits at the most impactful point that it can, that makes sense without beating you over the head with it, and my god, does it sound good. It's catchy as hell, too. Clearly, I won't shut up singing it badly. And the chorus feels a little bit more balanced now that we have heard the extreme versus the minimal, I guess you could say, from the first verse to the pre-chorus. Now it feels like a little bit like we were here, and now we're here, and now we're here. And we're being carried along again. And also something that I just noticed on one of my recent listens to this, again, making my point that you always discover something new, or maybe I've just listened to this song way too much, which is possible. The pacing of the lyrics in the chorus remind me of how the band headbangs on stage, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you've never seen Beartooth live, they have a certain way, especially when Caleb gets into it, that they kind of headbang where it's almost like they're... Boys, guys, I don't mean this as an insult. I don't do words good. And it's like they're being puppets on a string and they're being, like, yanked, but it's, like, between the shoulder blades, because, you know, a lot of people, like, headbang like this from the back of the neck or whatever. With them, it's like, especially Caleb, when he gets into it, Caleb, don't kill me. Instead of just, like, headbanging with the full upper back, it's like having two strings, like two string points attached on the back of the shoulder blades and being, like, yanked up like this, like, kind of like more of a jerky headbang motion. And if you've seen Beartooth, like, it's hard to do when I'm sitting on my bed like this, and if I get up and do it and I don't have a song, I'm gonna look like even more of an idiot than I do now. But hopefully, those of you who have seen Tooth Live know what I'm talking about. It's just, like, it's a unique way of headbanging I've, like, never seen before, or at least never noticed. And it's kind of like this more, like, just, like, with the back of the shoulder blades instead of the full upper body going along with it. It's, like, shoulders and then neck. I'm gonna stop doing that, because the chorus, the back end of the chorus, feels like it was tailor-made for that kind of movement on stage. It feels like it's moving and alive. It feels kinetic. And he goes, I can finally see like the others, things that I just discovered. Like, dancing while you're doing it. I can't wait for them to actually go on this tour, which starts in like 8 days. And then I'm gonna find video of this on the set list. This video is hopefully gonna be up before then, but I'm gonna see whether or not this theory proves correct. Probably just gonna traumatize them and make them self-conscious about how they move on stage. I'm sorry. I'm the worst. It's getting super hot in this room, too. Maybe because I'm wearing total... Let me change. Hold on a second. Mid-song outfit change. Who dis? I had to turn off my fan because I didn't want it to be on the audio. Ice Cube! Maybe, this Ice Cube shirt will keep me cool. Remember when I used to be funny? Then we get to the second verse, and that is where we really see the... I would call it the baseball. The pitch game of baseball when it comes to the usage of space. It sounds so good whenever it's just the intermittent of the screams and then the guitars coming up in the space left by the screams and just trading spaces like oompa loompa doopity doo. And then when you come back to this pre-chorus and it's like the whole choral of it instead of just being the one vocal and like the guitar, all of a sudden you have this choir. You have this choir singing the pre-chorus. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Take a look around. There's nobody left.
I cannot tell you the Christmas lights that lit up in my ears when I first heard that. And now when I think of it, I think of the TikTok effect that has like, it makes you like many people. That's gonna be a TikTok I make. No one steal that. You do, I'll freaking fight you. I guess. See you in the pit. Because you go from this, Roger, take a look around, and it's like, I literally felt like church opened up. I was like, hallelujah, hallelujah, praise be to the BT. Praise be to the BT is gonna be my new chant. I love that. And it's just kind of the smooth sailing that you're like, okay, yeah, the vibe. It's like riding in a Malibu lowrider on just a good sunny day. And take a look around. And the way it continues throughout the pre-chorus and then it just leads it just back into that slamming chorus. I feel like it just drives you home to just sing it even louder because it already feels like there's a crowd participation in the pre-chorus where it's just that it feels like a bunch of people singing together, and so then when it comes down to the one vocal in the chorus, It's like the choir kind of effect in the pre-chorus already gets you singing along because it feels like you're in this crowd already. It feels like a crowd of people, like crowd participation. And so you're leading along, you're getting into it, you're already hype, it has this good flow, and it's just carrying you through the pre-chorus, and it's just up and up and up. And so then when it finally gets to that build-up of the chorus and it just goes back to the one voice, you're still singing along with it. You're still going at it too. It's not only bringing you along on the ride, it's carrying you on it and putting you right there in the driver's seat or right there in the freaking middle freaking console with the shifter. You're in this too, homie. I said I wasn't going to try to make this just a total mixing analysis, but I feel like getting a lot of these elements now out of the way will just let me kind of breeze through them in the other songs. Famous last words. This video is going to be like 5 hours long. Sorry, Chey. Then we come to the famous bridge breakdown. Whatever you and your mom call it. I don't know why I brought your mom into this, I'm sorry. Then we get to the famous bridge breakdown, whatever you would like to refer to it as. Let me say it loud and clear so you never forget. Might have pushed it to the limit, but I'm not dead yet.
Might have pushed it to the limit, but I'm not dead yet.
First of all, bringing back the line that I was already obsessed with. Do I look like a woman that's okay? And I really love this part, not only because it's going back to one of my favorite lines of the song, it's another vibe establisher. Whereas the first time it was like, okay, so that's the level we're expecting, that's what we're going into this, that is the attitude setter. Now, it's more of, instead of just a declaration, now it's like a self-evident just truth, just statement, like, bud, this is what bloody is. And it gets that point across, I think, even more by kind of subverting expectations, because you go into it with these screaming vocals, and then you come out on the end lowering from the you go from that to just actually kind of talking it.
Never forget, might have pushed it to the limit, but I'm not dead yet.
Let me say it loud and clear so you never forget. To might have pushed it to the limit, but I'm not dead yet. It kind of subverts the expectations of just going into it, just screaming all the way through, or just doing the kind of talking all the way through. And this part is even cooler because it's a way of subverting expectations like I was talking about earlier with Space, in a way that's jarring, but not neck-breaking to your audience. And it's a way that's effective, going from not dead yet, ha ha ha, that, and just like, oh my gosh. There's gonna be a lot of that. Again, I was driving when I first heard this part. Not okay. Not okay. Because you have that ha ha ha, and it kicks in right at the top of that laugh. You just go ha 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 ha. And to me, in my brain, I just visualize it's almost like just coming up as you're doing it and just like, you know, just like snapping back, like as you hit the crescendo of that, as you hit the peak of that, and just like snapping like a snake. Thank you, Barry, for the representation. And then the guitar, the instrumentation gets to take a little bit of spotlight, and it kind of feels like a tilt-a-whirl that's just like and it's a way of bringing you through and coming back around, and you're like, because you're still recovering from the and you're at this level, and it's just taking you around in it, and it's riding you around in it. And then again, we come with that unexpected perk your ears up goodness. I almost said, I'm trying not to curse, because you're and then you just have the with the guitar of, I love songs where guitars sound like they're clearly being mistreated. I'm cruel that way. But that scream that just comes out of nowhere, just that, it takes you from that kind of ride that you're on of just a and it shocks your system, right? You're like, oh. It's that other take. It takes you back out of it and then throws you back into it. And it's like, get back in there. We're not done. What I'm saying is this is the Hunger Games of Beartooth albums. I volunteer as tribute. That's not the signal. I volunteer as tribute. And then you're taken back into the instrumentation of just head banging, just hell yeah, goodness. And then guess what? Guess where it's going? Because we're not done yet, and that means you ain't done paying attention yet. You think you know what's coming, but you don't. You ain't slick. And then as soon as it's taken away, it starts slowly coming back in with that other build-up. And it's just quick enough to where you're not off the high of that first build-up. You're not still off of that hype. You've barely had time to register it. And then you're going to be thrown back in again. Because it has that slow build-up of the chorus. And you already know what's coming. And so even if you're starting to come down off of that awesome roller coaster ride that was the instrumentation in that, as soon as you start to even feel a little bit of a break, you hear the chorus start coming again, and it's already triggering in your mind to be like, oh, hell yeah, here we go.
My worries were a waste of time, made the world so blurred.
And so it only gives you time enough to take a step back and be like, oh, that's what's happening, and then just jump right back into it. And I feel like because of that, it hits probably 4 times as hard. At least to me it does, because when I first heard it, I was like, oh, like, the breakdown's, usually, like, closer to the end of the song. I was like, cool, like, one more chorus, and then just I was like, yes! Yes! Hell yeah!
Let's go! Oh, my worries.
Because it has that, let's go, and you know what's about to go down. You already know, and so it just, let's go. And for the first time, like on Riptide, I feel like during this last chorus, I feel like, and it could just be my ears, the vocals feel a little bit more clearer, a little bit more in front of the instrumentation for like the first time in the whole song, besides like where that space was given to the vocals. Like during the chorus, this is like one of the first times in the chorus that the vocal I feel like is a little bit more in front. And it's just like a friggin' victory lap, dude. It's just a friggin' victory lap, dude. It just sets the vibe for the whole f***ing album. Saying it's alive, it's here, it knows what to do with your ears in order to keep you in. You're coming along on this ride, and it's gonna be a hell of a one. And that's the thing I mentioned in the vlog that I honestly am probably most proud of this point, is that this whole album feels like it's alive. Like, it is ready to live, and it's ready to co-live. And how I explained it in that vlog is, it's not like it's been in hibernation or anything. It feels like it's meant to be lived with. Like, this album is active, this album is kinetic, this album is alive, in that it feels like a breathing thing. It feels like this album is one that you could, like, sit and listen and, like, contemplate with, but it's also moving. Moving in the sense of not staying stagnant. Moving emotionally, yes, but also the non-stagnant moving. It feels like this album doesn't stand still, and it doesn't. It has pauses. Look the other way, I'm looking at you. And it has moments of taking a breath, but there's no standstill. This album feels like it is just encompassing and encouraging and showcasing doing. Just go and do. Live. And I think The Surface is a really good introduction to that whole thing. My God. How long was that? All my worries were a waste of time. I'm so ashamed of my vicious problems, keeping the worst of me all to myself. It's overwhelming, not ever telling the ones I love that I gotta find help. Wait. I already talked extensively about Riptide, so much so that everyone's probably sick of hearing me talk about it. I'm wearing my Riptide tie-dye bandana that I made. I didn't get an actual Riptide bandana, so I made my own. I took a white bandana and I dyed it. It's pretty cool, I think. I'm proud of it. Since I've already talked extensively about Riptide, I'll kind of just talk about my favorite parts of the song since I've already done the whole mixing analysis. Though I do think it is one of the greatest mix songs of our time. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. As an engineer, it is something that I look up to as, like, I hope to God, like, I can mix something that good one day that well. As I was saying with Riptide, though, if you are curious about anything that I would have said were I to go into the mixing analysis, it's all in that video down below, don't forget. Not that kind of below. We're just gonna get to my favorite parts, and then we're gonna keep trucking. I love Riptide. It is definitely one of my top 5 favorite Beartooth songs. It's funny, because my listening history would probably tell you it's probably in my top 2. I just freaking love this song. I love the lyrics. I just love the sounds. My synesthesia goes crazy. My stem goes crazy. It just gives the good airwaves to my brain. However, it does pose a danger to me because whenever I see the Riptide music video recommended on YouTube, I watch YouTube whenever I work out indoors at my house whenever I do a home workout. And if I see it on my YouTube recommended while I'm working out, I can't not watch it. What am I gonna do? Not watch it? That's illegal. So I put it on, and part of my workout is that I walk on the walking pad for like three something miles. I cannot put that video on while I'm on the walking pad because I have nearly injured myself every single time because I end up walking like over 4 miles an hour and I'm just like booking it and vibing, and it's not good for my health. It's not safe for me. It's not good. But yet I still do it every single time. What is the definition of insanity or stupidity? Doing the same thing over and over and over? But what am I gonna do? Not watch it? I don't think so. This will be a good test run of me actually trying to figure out how to do my Happy Ears videos. This is going in the Happy Ears category, but Happy Ears moments specifically. A quick explanation of what Happy Ears moments are. They are what I call my STEM moments. Often neurodivergent people may STEM. Stimulation. Like, like, I don't really know how to describe it. My degree is in history, not science. All I knew is that for the entirety of my life, I always had extremely intense reactions to music, like random moments in music. Little bits, little sounds here and there in different artists, different songs, different things. And my reaction was always much more visceral and intense and passionate than everyone else around me. And I thought I was weird. I got diagnosed with ADHD and I found out what that was. I'm stimming. It's stimming. It's all the airwaves hitting my brain in the right order to make me go, oh, just making me happy. I want to talk about those moments in this song that do that for me, since I've already talked about the mixing side. First off, starting right off, the bass. The bass in this song. We're gonna get to the bass and Might Love Myself later. It was one of my most watched videos on YouTube Music, just because it was very calming to me. A lot of people have lo-fi music playing in the background. I just had the Might Love Myself bass playthrough when I was cooking a dinner or whatever. Right away, the bass and the vocals and the pacing in this song just... Yeah. But the first real big one is the first Give Me the Rush where the drums come in doo-doo-doo. I was like, every single time, I'm like, ah! And it just launches me in to full on my bull. I'm done explaining my pain, this is way too much. Just the beat of this song is so infectious. The chorus especially, just the way that it flows is so fucking good. It is not only a banger, it is a bop, ladies and gentlemen, in all configurations of big. And what's really cool about it is that when you go into the second verse from this chorus, it still has that, like, kind of tempo. It still has that beat that's still just kind of driving force. It's just that can't stand still on your feet kind of beat. Like, you gotta move around. Which is the #1 rule of a Beartooth show, by the way. If you've never been to a Beartooth show, you don't come to a Beartooth show to stand around. You gotta move. So this song is perfect for that. And then right when it has the going back into this is way too much, just give me the rush. Just that slow back down into the build up after that second verse. Back into the clean chorus, and it's just, we're all around. It is using that high energy. It is just punching that point home. It is infectious. And what's cool about the tempo, about the flow in the chorus, is that it really feels like every syllable on the word is like punching in. Like there's an emphasis and there's just punch on every single syllable in the word, which when you have a catchy chorus already that infectious, just allows for so much energy to be put into every single little millisecond in it, and you just capture that and you just, ah! When you know how to harness something like that and capture it in that little time and space and you can just shake it until it's just ready to bake, that's when you get to the breakdown of the song. There is something so cathartic about the breakdown of the song, and it has to do with the space that I was talking about. Because you have all of this space taken up, you have all of this, I don't want to call it noise because that sounds, unorganized, sounds the opposite of music. But you have all of these sounds taking up this space and just not letting go. Which, ironically, I didn't plan that, but when he talks about, like, don't want him to die, I guess I gotta let it go. You have space, right? Because it slows down at first. And it kind of sounds like a heartbeat. Like, again, I go way more into this and how fucking masterfully this comes together and how it just... I'm explaining it much better in that other video that I am here, because this is just me fangirling. You have don't want to die, I guess I gotta let it go. And as it's coming up with that vocal, it kind of sounds like lo-fi in that kind of strained essence where it's just the vocal is like catched down like this instead of just front and present, and it's just kind of building up with the don't want to die, and it's coming up in escalation. I guess I gotta let it go. And it's just building back up into that essence, into that fullness that we were used to. And so when it comes out of this emptiness, when it comes out of this space into that to just blank space, and then I guess I gotta let it go. Down, down, down. Guess I gotta let it go. Oh, it's so cathartic. It's so cathartic. It goes from this build up to guess I gotta, and then the let it go goes, let it go. And it's that steep drop off down a freaking roller coaster, just, and then down, down, down. That's just the freaking loop-de-loop on the roller coaster, and it's so good. Because it allows that catharsis of let it go. Down, down, down. It just won't let you go. That's really what I see in the synesthesia. So remember the Hot Wheel tracks? It's like that and just the, except it is like a steel gray silver track. But it's more kind of Mercury-esque, where it's like flexible because it's able to like turn this way and that, but no matter what, the ball that's trapped inside of it is still going like this. It's kind of like one of those penny machines they used to have at the mall. I feel like a conspiracy theorist saying that and looking like this. Or a ninja. Should I keep filming this till 2 a.m? Because that's how long it's gonna take. Jesus, Chey. And then, after that, when you're just going, row, row, it's like, okay, you gotta stop the ride before people get a concussion, right? Right? Yes and no. In following along with the kind of storytelling that the mixing is talking about, which I gotta rein Chey in from talking about it all over again, it slows back down, and it's that heartbeat of doom, 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 which now feels just like the slower callback of that original first dun, 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 before the chorus. But it's the same tool to emphasize where we are in the lyrical storytelling, in the narrative. Here I go again. It's like instead of making it the conviction, instead of making it the realization or just kind of the plea to the self as in the first part of the song, now it's kind of just that realization and emphasis to oneself of like, yeah, like it's more secure. It's more self-evident, more self-confident. And that leads into another happy ears moment for me, which is the lead up to the last part, the reprise of the chorus. Then you have the, yeah, I'm done explaining my pain.
Riptide, yeah. I'm done explaining my...
It's a way to just metaphorically and audibly slide you back in on that roller coaster, just instead of the this time, it's going, and you are just launching up in the air, and how you're landing in the middle of it is when you slide up on that, yeah, and you land back down, it's more clear than ever before. The vocals are more present than ever before. They are more front and center. It is just absolutely confident. It is blaring. It is just, hey, I'm here. I'm in control. I won't be freaking ignored. This is what's going on because I say so. It is just very here, very now. In this ride of ups and downs in different ways that are leading throughout the mix, finally, we have a place at the end that sounds so freaking good to my ears when you finally land at the end. And it's a landing that just allows you to keep going like this now that you have like a direction that's been chosen instead of being pulled metaphorically by the Riptide. It's like, okay, this is where we're going now. This is the journey now below. I freaking love Riptide. Have I said that enough? Did I make that self clear? Now that that nightmare's over, oh god, forehead! Forehead more like 5 head. I can't wait to watch you write. If there's one thing you should learn about me, don't ever fucking doubt me. Don't doubt me, the Blackbird sessions. I'm gonna get banned from every show in the future. The sacrifices I make for you people. Doubt Me is probably gonna be the last song that I talk about tonight, at least before dinner. This is taking a lot longer. Should I do this until like 2 a.m.? Probably not. I like my banjo. I want the banjo version of Doubt Me. Dealey, Zach, can you play banjo? I bet one of you can. I bet both of you can, actually. I want it. I want the banjo version of Doubt Me. I'm wondering where my Beartooth whale songs are. If you don't understand that reference, don't worry. It's a very niche reference. Doubt Me is interesting in a mixing way at the very, very darn beginning. Because yes, you have this atmospheric kind of like spooky vroom, but then when it actually starts, like the parts of the song that start with the vocals, it's the emphasis that's on the vocal. It starts out very spatial. And what that tells us, audibly, when the vocal is the one that's most present at the very beginning too, it says, hey, this is what to pay attention to. Perk up, pay attention, that's what we're paying attention to.
I've been used by the useless, my whole body's covered in bruises.
Which makes sense for this song, where the narrator, you, Caleb, whoever, are the focus of the song. It's like a power anthem, right? The person is the focus of the song, the person speaking. It's a song essentially with a message about using your voice to be like, hey, don't ever fucking doubt me, right? So it would make sense that at the very outset, the very start of the song, the vocal starts out as the thing to say, hey, pay attention to this. It says, pay attention to what I'm saying because I have a message. What I'm saying is important. And then you have the guitar steady in the background, but it's not a calming kind of steady. It's kind of like I'd say like a crouching tiger or like a cat in the grass.
My whole body's covered in bruises, consumed by the...
Where it's just kind of low to the ground, unassuming is what I would say. That's the word. Good job, Chey. We have a Georgetown education. Just unassumingly kind of like creeping through the grass. Where you would be a fool. You'd be a fool to underestimate those guitars. You'd be a fool to underestimate the person narrating this song to the person singing this song. And that's the essence of it, right? That's getting the message across right there through the instrumentation, because it's about don't ever doubt me. Don't underestimate me because I'm gonna fucking do it. It's slapping those expectations of being unassuming right out of the freaking park. I'm sorry, Bandana. Victory! I caught the snitch! Snitches get stitches. It's like my tinfoil hat. So the Beartooth lore. By the way, I also run the Beartooth lore account on Instagram where I post much shorter versions of crap like this and memes and just overall people's love for the band and their theories, and it's a fun time. Commercial break over. Doubt me. ADHD commercial break over. I'm gonna start having a freaking like ADHD commercial break. And right away at the start of the song, we have something so clearly embodying what the whole point of the song is going to be, what the whole overall, the message of the song is going to be, just in the way that it's presented, just in the way that the elements are presented, in those unassuming guitars, and the kind of lower vocal. Because it's not loud, it's not in your face at first, it's something that you probably wouldn't expect, which is the motherfucking point. Another prime example of using your mixing, of creating the thing as you plan to hear it in your head, as you plan to finalize it. The saying in the studio is record it how you want to mix it. That way you have less mixing to do. And when you record like this, when you have something like this in mind and you're able to implement it through those other elements and just get across the overall messages so well in such a short amount of time so efficiently, it just makes the rest of it that much more cohesive. It lets you drive your points home effectively in a shorter time span because you've already made it. And so it allows you more space, more room to develop those ideas, to develop that message and add on to it and build onto it and just sell people on it. I say that like it's propaganda. I mean, just get your people into your vibe. To get people on the bandwagon, as they might say. I'm losing it. So when you get to the part that says, so full of lies and excuses, and then that little drum just, it's one of the first signs that, hey, wait, there's something else going on here. And the guitar starts to pick up a little bit more, it starts to get a little bit more like, hey, wait, pay even more attention. Because there's something else going on here, something that we didn't quite see at first, something that we didn't quite expect. It's very metaphorical in that kind of sense. But that's what a great usage of mixing as storytelling does. And then you get to the chorus, which is, remember every time you doubt me. And it's just,
Remember every time you doubt me.
This album perfectly knows when to drop you in, when to let you go, and when to push you in and when to pull you out for the most effect, most bang for your buck. And this song is a power anthem that will not have mercy. And why would it? That would go against the essence of it. And the way that the doubt me echoes kind of behind the vocal that then answers to it, like a little call and response kind of thing, even though it's a continuation of the same sentence, like, every time you doubt me, it makes me stronger than before, and when you doubt me, it fuels the fire even, like, it's so good! It makes my ears so happy! And then you just have that vicious, don't ever doubt me! And that little creeping, like, little unassuming kind of instrumentation in the beginning is just completely blown out of the freaking water. Blown out of the window. It is there, it is chugging, it is just growling, vicious, like, hey, this kitty got some big teeth, got some big claws. And now instead of just looking cute, kind of creeping through the grass, you realize that big cat's coming after you. It's not a good thing. And when it comes into that second verse, and the instrumentation and the guitars take a little step up by just going dun 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 dun. That, to me, the evolution in my brain that happened there from the first verse to that one is the equivalent of when you first hear the Jaws theme start, and then it picks up louder. Like you hear dun 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 dun, and then when the second verse kicks in is when in Jaws when it goes dun 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 dun. That makes sense to someone out there. It makes sense to me.
I've let you take enough from me. As well I've been faceless, exposed to your weakness.
And I want to tell you one of my favorite happy ears moments that I have, and the hardest thing about having what I call happy ears moments, having those stem moments, is that I can describe to you literally what the sounds are, but I can't tell you why they affect me the way that they do. I can tell you that they make me go like, ah, and they make me feel like electricity zaps through me. I can't tell you like, hey, that snare drum hit just makes me feel goofy. I can tell you that, but I can't tell you why. So that's what kind of makes it hard, is because there's no rationale. It's just feeling. And one of the biggest happy ears moments I've had in this entire album that's still just, it's like a shot of adrenaline runs through me whenever I get a stem moment, whenever I get one of these happy ears moments. God help you if you've ever seen me at a Beartooth show. God help you if you've ever seen me at any show, but especially them. And one of my favorite ones happens in this second verse, and I can't explain to you why, it just is. It's as it's like creeping up and it's getting through the second verse. It's the part where it says, exposed all your weakness, I'm getting back to the basics. The smoke is clear. See,
Saw your weakness. I'm getting back to the basics. The smoke is clear. I'm seeing red. I won't stop fighting till I'm dead.
It's just the way the freaking guitars get, I don't know, something about the flow of the words. I'm getting back to the basics. Just something about it clicks in my brain so freaking well. Just I'm getting back to the basics. It's kind of like, it goes back to that, to the drums in Riptide, I guess. I just really like drums. I take after my mom too much. No, Mom, I won't be a drummer. You can't make me. It's something that is so visceral that it feels like a challenge to war. And it's like, I'm getting back to the basics. It's just such a clear tonal shift in my brain that flows with, like, it fits with the timing so well. I'm getting back to the basics. And then it just launches into, the smoke is clear, I'm seeing red. Like, I won't stop fighting till I'm dead. Like, holy shit. And then you have the guitars going, dunner, dunner, dunner. It's like, we're getting amped up, riding freaking Riders of Rohan into war. This is real. Power up, bitches. It's time to go Super Saiyan. I got a little too hyped there, I apologize. And then it launches back into that beautiful chorus, and then, oh lordy, lordy, we get into the legendary breakdown, in my opinion. When I first heard this, as with a lot of this album, you notice a running theme, I just went, oh. I didn't go, oh. I went, oh. What did he just say? Because let me tell you something, when we get to that part, the guitars, the instrumentation had been sounding kind of like the Jaws theme coming up, and it had just been, like, biting. That part of the smoke is clear, I'm saying red was just, like, a pit bull, like, I don't want to talk about pit bulls that way, that's negative. It's like a freaking monster latching onto you and just, like, digging in. It's you grabbing someone by the face and being like, hey, don't ever doubt me. It is very in your face, here I am, I got something to say, I'm freaking saying it. And it feels like it's just gonna get harder and harder, right? And more driving and more forceful. And then when you get to this part, it kind of slinks back into the more of the unassuming kind of role, the instrumentation. Because it kind of takes a step back, but it still has that darker tone. It has that sharp edge to it, but it's not forceful when it goes, dun 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 dun. I'm gonna play it because my god, I am just butchering it. When he says, now I'm stuck treading water in the ocean alone, because you have the guitars, you have the instrumentation going down, 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 with the drums backing it up on just the right point to emphasize the doom on the down, 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 down. And it's kind of unassuming in comparison to that biting force that we were just listening to. But this is where you would be a fool to, again, underestimate it. Because it's still dark. It's still sharp. It is still there. But it doesn't have to be forceful anymore. Because it doesn't have to outright sound forceful. You know why? Because it's got that self-confidence that it doesn't have to prove anything to you. It knows what it is. And it is dangerous. And if you mess around, you're gonna find out. This is a case where the bear's bite is worse than its bark. And then now you're stuck treading water in the ocean alone, little late for apologies. How about a rope and a stone? The audacity! Little
late for apologies. How about a rope and a stone?
No, but like seriously, that is so killer. What? I feel like I could run a marathon listening to that, and we all know I ain't a runner. I fight. It's fight or flight, and baby, I'm a flightless bird. The happy ears moments in here with the space where it gets into the, how about a rope and a stone, and it escalates into that screaming portion where it ends on that scream, and the instrumentation completely, like, pulls back so that you get the full force impact of that statement. That way there's no distraction, you know exactly what you're getting into, you know exactly what you're hearing, what you're dealing with, and if you get on the wrong side of it, you ain't gonna like it. And then that moment where it goes from stone down and it like loops, it feels like it loops back into the instrumentation and we're just like on the slow moving kind of whirlpool. It feels like tripping.
Up in a stone!
Being dragged down into kind of a den in the middle of a rainstorm. And then what was taken away to give that space to the statement, to the full impact force, comes back more forceful to just attack when you least expect it. And then we just have this that comes along with it, that comes along with that, comes out of nowhere, and it's just, it just fully branches like alongside of it. It just grows alongside of it, wax on, wax off. And it fits in so seamlessly and blends like it's just carrying the voice. It's carrying the voice of the song further on the wind. It's just pushing the message home, pushing it further, pushing it farther. It's just a little bit of backup to it. It's forceful enough on its own, but when they come together, it just pushes it even harder, and it just coalesces together like like Oreos, like melted Oreos. The way it just swoops together, it comes in seamlessly and then comes out the other side, and it just leaves it without a staggering, leaves it without a jagged edge. Like, fuck off! Are you kidding me? So good. And then, we're not done. I'm gonna give myself a headache. And then another little moment that I love is the da-na-na-da-na. I made it sound so country. And for the rest of the song, it's just this give and take of just restating that power, just claiming your spot, staking your place. And honestly, one of my favorite songs on this album. One of my favorite songs I've ever done. Like, sound-wise, just... I love Doubt Me. I love it a lot. And to be honest, when I first heard it, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I really liked it, but I was like, something is hitting weird. Something's hitting weird. And I don't know what it is, because the second time I listened to it, I was like, I'm obsessed. And it was the one that I listened to the most for a little bit, but then it, you know, you find other favorites sometimes on the album, but it's still one of my top favorites of the album. It's so good. What would you do if I just told you, actually, that's a lie? I hate that song. Tomorrow I'm gonna make changes, 'cause today I can barely speak. Hit 'em with a riff. Wait, that isn't right. Give me a few seconds. Hit 'em with a riff. Down, 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 down. What's up? Ready to talk about the better riff? The better riff! The better me! I'm, woo! Loose on the juice. Sipping on it. That's an A Day to Remember reference. That doesn't belong here. Get out of here. Y'all ready to talk about the better me? I got my outfit on. I'm not buttoning up this shirt, but if this shirt looks familiar, don't worry about it. Just for context, I saw this shirt on a thrift website, and I bought it, and then I realized, oh, it's the same one. At least I'm 99.9% sure it's the same one. I just saw it on a thrift website, and I was like, listen, I'm in my button-down era. I love it. It looks good. Pink and black. I'm all for it. And then we just can't escape the twin. We can't escape the twin thing. You know, I've actually had people, when I show, like, Beartooth meet and greet photos that I've had people be like, are those your cousins? They're like, you look like you could be cousins. I'm like, we are family. The Better Me. I freaking love this song. I love it. I'm also a Hardy fan, so that helps. I've been a fan of Hardy for a long time. It helps that I live where I live, and I'm around the music that I'm around, and around the, you know, the culture that I am. But, like, I've been a fan of Hardy for a while, so when I heard that he was collabing with Beartooth, I was like, that makes sense. Because the last two Beartooth shows in Nashville, like, Hardy has been there. And when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That checks out. That checks out. But also, he's just a really talented songwriter. Like, the hooks that he can write. Dude's crazy talented. Hardy, if you out there, you crazy talented. I know a lot of people were skeptical when they heard that Tooth was collabing with Hardy because of the music that Hardy makes, but I was just excited. I love the song. Obviously, I love Beartooth, and I just told you that I love Hardy. So when they came together, I was like, okay, I'm really hopeful for what this is gonna be. And I love it so much more than I thought that I could, because when I first started listening to the album, I'd say, preface this with, there's not a song on the album that I don't like. But of course, if you're going to rank them to yourself, there are gonna be some like that are lower than others. And starting off, The Better Me was not like the lowest on the list, but like it wasn't in my top 5 of the favorite from the album, but now I'd say it's probably in the top 5. Maybe it's just grown on me. I don't know. There's so many happy years moments in this song for me. First of all, the video is just so pure, so wholesome. It brings joy. It also brings really cool shirts you might find on thrift websites and then forget exist until you see the video that they're in. Isn't ADHD fun? It's been a night. I realized I'd been recording for several hours by that point, and I thought, you know what? I'll just save it for the morning. the way this song even starts with the how many times have I said I was gonna be someone, and just something about the way those words flow, like the pacing of that is just...
How many times have I said I was gonna be someone when I get back onto my feet?
I can hear an earworm in it immediately. Maybe that's just me, but as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, that comes together very nicely. And I'm not gonna lie, it took me a second to realize that Hardy jumped on. Maybe because my brain was still playing catch up, like, you know, processing what I heard the first time, and then I was like, wait a minute, wait, that's Hardy too. I knew he was in the song, but I was like, oh, cool, like, he's in it literally, like, the third line. Awesome.
Tomorrow I'm gonna make changes, 'cause today I can barely speak.
And I'm just gonna come out and say it, I freaking love the hit him with the riff part. I scream that every single time. I become the most obnoxious person when this song comes on because I'm just like, hit him with a riff. My southern comes out. It's kind of like if you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band. You know, if you hear that song in Texas, just like if you play this song around me and I get to hear the hit him with the riff part, I'm gonna hit him with the riff. I'm gonna hit him with me screaming, hit him with the riff.
Hit 'em with the riff.
It's not like a hard line in the conventional sense of like being a tough, like whatever, like, but I think it's so cool. Especially because the riff that follows it really is cool. And it's like, oh, dang, okay. And that introduction of that riff obviously sets the tone for the rest of the song, but I think it really matches up well with the pacing of the words, like that same aspect, because the riff itself is not jerky. Jerky sounds kind of jagged. It's more flexible than just jerky. Well, if you compare it to beef jerky, how beef jerky is like, you know, we're getting off track. I want beef jerky now. But it's very like, now. Like, it's very... Hold on. I have something. Hold on. Back. This is a hairband. Because rubber band is too snappy, but it has that same kind of elasticity that doesn't snap forward, but it's still flexible enough to go back and forth when it's like, down. I'm gonna sound absolutely insane to anyone watching this video, but I hope there's at least one of you that will be like, yeah, I get it. Because that riff kind of gives me the synesthesia of this, except it's like spring grassy in texture, because it has like mini little edges in it. Mini, M-A-N-Y, M-I-N-I, mini, kind of little like edges in it, like blades of grass, and it's like smooth texture, and it's like flexible like a blade of grass, but it also has like a kind of sniffness in it, and it has push and pull. It has very flexible push and pull, and that matches up perfectly with the flow of the lyrics, I think, because it kind of feels like a little bouncy, like flex push and pull. It doesn't really showcase it quite as much in the first verse, but in the second verse, both their cadences, Beartooth and Hardy's, really, really showcase it, I think, a lot better. And then we drop into the verse. It's the verse that starts out with, I've been burned by it, concerned about it, I can't steady my hand. You can really hear the ebb and flow of the cadence, especially in this verse. And maybe because the Hardy feature, like, he has his own cadence and flow as an MC, right? Like, as he writes, I mean, he does rock, obviously, too, but in his rap beat MC songs, I sound like the hippest person out there. Ice Cube on my shirt would be so ashamed of me. But Hardy is a person that's very, I feel, comfortable with his own flow, and adding that in to a song that it doesn't, I wouldn't say caters to it, but flows around it so well, really encompasses it, and plays around with it really well, just allows him to blend it right on in just for smooth sailing, and again, re-up the volume on the power of that kind of effect, on that beautiful cohesion of those techniques. It's a song that's been crafted for the details here. It's like a patchwork quilt that came together from places all over the place. Great, Chey. But it's seamless. It just blends together that well. And I fully have to admit, whenever Hardy's part comes on, my full accent comes out. I'm like, yes! Finally, I don't have to hide it! But what's cool about the lead up into Hardy's part, because Caleb's part starts out with the, I've been burned by it, right? I got a little ahead of myself talking about Hardy. I really like Hardy. But the start out of this verse builds up into that cadence because you have to come out of that chorus, right? You have to lead into it, that kind of crossfade effect again. And building up into it wasn't part of my plan, where it starts out kind of talky in comparison to I've been burned by it, and then concerned about it, and it flows, right? Well, Hardy starts out the same way. It's kind of just the reprise of the verse over again. In a way, it's almost just like the second stanza of a poem, where it's like we're coming back around to where we started. It's a logical start and end, where Hardy's flow is more kind of talky anyway, just because of the nature of his cadence and how he presents his lyricism, but he also sings, and to talk about my point here, he also starts out kind of talky, like Caleb's part of the verse. It starts out kind of talky for the first few words, I don't want to suffer, and then leading into that last word to go into the second line, there's a flow of singing, of melodicism, melody, that coherently slides into the second line.
Tried to lie and I tried to recover.
I'm not even gonna attempt to sing Recover. And how it ends with, but I'm back in the gutter thinking all the same things, it ends on that same slide up.
Thinking all the same things.
The way that we started with
Wasn't part of my plan.
It doesn't necessarily escalate the same way, but it ends in like this slope up. And it doesn't have to be a giant slide up, it's just up enough to where when we come out of that into the chorus, it's up at the level to just get right back into it. It's very cognizant of being able to be done in almost the same breath, not having to change the power of that breath, thinking all the same things. How many times have I said, like, it feels very, very level. But what's cool about that is because you don't have such an immediate drop off or jump up, that when you start it at that level, then you can take it to whatever level you want easily from there. So you can go, thinking all the same things, how many times, and you can go from how many times, you know? I'm not a singing vocal coach, that much is clear. But actually what's cool is if you listen closely, I am re-listening to the songs as I'm talking about this to make sure I don't forget anything. And it did just jump out at me that as you're listening, you can actually hear it in the beginning of go back into the chorus around like the minute mark, close to the minute mark. Listen to how the instrumentation is following the cadence of the words. Like the guitars, as previously said, that are hitting us with the riff. When Caleb says, tomorrow I'm gonna make changes, that's when you hear in the background, like it follows the cadence of the way that he presents the word. So when the song gets to tomorrow I'm gonna make changes, in the background, listen to the guitar. Changes,
I'm gonna make changes, 'cause
it's speaking the same words to our ears in two different languages. It's just re-emphasizing what's going on here, and it sounds so fucking good. And as we're building up to the end of this chorus where it's gonna kick into the chorus, it's building up alongside of it. And the instrumentation doesn't fully back up the cadence the entire time, it just helps to re-emphasize it. This allows it expansion and growth for doing its own thing. So we have the changes, but then when you get to stop f***ing around, be the better me, listen to how the drums follow f***ing around. And then right as the better me, like echoes out, like reverbs out, the guitars fill that space that was coming in. It's like a good fade out to a fade in, that crossfade for all my engineering, all my music people. The crossfade effect that has blends beautifully to my ears. It just lets you down, and then it's just that down
and be the better man.
But it never jerks you back too far. It's keeping you in it, and it's just like it's the momentum of a headbang. Why didn't I think of that analogy first? Duh. That's the kind of flexibility that it has. This is why I kind of riff off the cuff. Well, I'm totally riffing off the cuff with this video. That's why it's as chaotic as it is. I'm just speaking stuff. I'm just words. It's very down, you know? And when it launches into that chorus, we are back to ebbing and flowing, baby. But there's more emphasis. There's more power in it now. There's more smiling in it now. I don't know how you can hear a smile, but that's what I hear. I hear, like, big grins, and maybe I've just been brainwashed by seeing the music video, and so that image is just now implanted in my mind, but honestly, I feel like you can just hear it. You can hear the smiling during the chorus. During the chorus after this verse. You can just hear it. That's the only way to explain the escalation of power, I feel like, in this chorus versus the first time we heard it. Because it's still just as impactful, but there is something different about it. It's something that has to do with, like, confidence and just being happy about it. Because you can be confident and still not be happy. They can be two separate things, but there can also be a meshing of that, and I feel like that's what we're hearing. Because in Doubt Me, it's that confidence where it's like, yeah, F you. Doubt me. Oh yeah. But this, Doubt Me compared to this is like the Kermit meme. Like, Kermit talking to Dark Kermit. Only if, like, both Kermits were super, super confident and not, like, trying to give each other bad ideas. You ever seen that meme where it's like lighting engineer versus sound engineer? That's Doubt Me versus the Better Me. By the way, that meme is so accurate. And that little part where it goes, the Better Me, yeah, oh, and it, like, whips around, it's that same, like, jerky tone that's with the rest of it that's already, like, following the riff and the instrumentation and just the cadence of the words. Consistency. Excuse you. Consistency that isn't just beating your head against the wall. Consistency that isn't repetitive, it just shows up in different ways, in different aspects that strengthen your original argument. I sound like a college professor. Someone stop me. And if that Hardy part didn't already bring up my accent, this part does. When it comes back around to Hardy, oh my lord. Oh my lord, you can hear it already coming out right now. I'm so done with it, and I've run with it for as long as I can. I'm shutting down and 1 foot in the ground, and I got no confidence left. It just makes me so happy when I hear fellow Southerners and their accents actually come through in music, because so many people have learned to sing in a way that hides their accent or doesn't showcase it. And since Hardy has a different approach to that kind of singing, his own flow, you get to hear it, and it makes me so happy. I know it ain't a fellow Middle Tennessee accent, but it's a fellow Southerner, so that makes me happy. And we turn to that similar kind of cadence back when it goes back to Hardy, except when we get to the line, I'm shutting down and 1 foot in the ground, it changes up a little bit, enough to make your ear perk up, because it's not quite like the other verses that we've had. It's got a little bit more of that MC-esque flow to it, instead of just a line. And you're like, Chey, that's what a bridge, that's what a reprise does. Like, it's just the same thing repeated, just a little bit different. Yes. But that's not quite what I'm talking about. The delivery of this is just altered enough to be like, okay, yeah, here we go. Oh. I'm shutting down at 1 foot in the ground, and I got no confidence left. I don't know how else to describe the synesthesia of it when I hear it, shutting down, got 1 foot in the ground, except for I see a slinky. I don't have a slinky nearby, do I? I do! I got props everywhere. Aggressively slinkies at you. I feel like the Miss Rachel of music channels. I'm like, okay, children. This is the flow of an MC. So this is what my synesthesia gives me for the last part of Hardy's part. I'm shutting down, shutting down, got 1 foot in the ground, and I got no confidence left. I can't concentrate or keep on beat because I know how ridiculous this looks. But this is what I see! Except it's like just a big silver slinky that's kind of more animated, like you would see in an old Microsoft, like Windows screensaver, like the 90s ones with the pipes. Or Windows Media Player. That kind of like illustration is kind of like what I'm seeing, but slinky. Just down and 1 foot in the ground, and I got no confidence left. That's the closest I can get it. Don't ask me to do this ever again. Shutting down and 1 foot in the ground, and I got no confidence left. And it's a nice little break, because then we jump into Don't Need One Another Testified, and it's time to recover. And the line, I won't die in the gutter, cold, alone, and unseen, really hits. This took a dark turn very fast. TW warning, and I'll put a timestamp. TW warning. I couldn't listen to this song for a while. It made me uncomfortable to listen to because my uncle had just passed very tragically 2 months before in July, and then in September my cousin lost his battle with depression. So listening to Cold, Alone, and Unseen, I won't die alone, cold, and unseen, I'm tearing up right now. Like, it's still hard for me to listen to that line because it just makes me think of him. So, yeah. I miss him, my uncle, a lot. Okay, I'm gonna dry my fucking tears. That got dark way too fast. We're gonna get back into the goofs and gaffs before I have a breakdown. But I'm being honest, and if you think that's bad, wait till we get to I Was Alive. Now you gotta, if you stayed for that section, guess what happened when I heard I Was Alive? It really freaking hit home. Anyway, we're getting to my favorite part of the Better Me, so let's just Sharpay it together. Woo! Class Clown Syndrome. So we get back into the chorus, and y'all know the drill by now, but it's more confident and it's more happy than ever before. It is just, like, punchy. It is just... I love the riff so much. I love it so much. What my brain does whenever I hear the riff, this is my brain on the riff. I wish I was kidding. When we get to that reprise bridge, whatever you want to call it, you want to talk about happy ears moments, stem moments in this song? Oh my god! Because it pulls back from, like, the total clarity and total presentness, like, clearness of the vocal to... And then it's like a call and response, because once that fades out, you have it coming back. How many times I said I was gonna be someone? Gonna be someone. That good old delay, good old echo reverb, good old audio engineering, you know? And the trick that I love so much, that I don't know if I can call it a trick, because I don't know if it's purposeful or not, but the part that makes my ears stem real hard is because that part is kind of backed up, it's like behind a tissue. My brain sees a tissue whenever I hear that. It's like a vocal behind kind of a tissue, like a kind of filter-esque. Not that really changes it, but just sort of like represses it back just a little bit, so that's what your ears get used to hearing, and it sounds good on its own, right? And to me, I think kind of the emphasis behind the stem on my ears of this part is how it starts out, kinda a little bit, it sounds like it's a little bit behind that tissue, right? Not quite as clear, it's a little bit in the background compared to the clarity we've been hearing of the vocals throughout the chorus. How many times have I said I was gonna be someone? Because it primes and preps your ears that, like, okay, this is what we're doing now. I'm used to hearing it, it kind of draws your ears back just a little bit, so that then, when the actual, how many times have I said I was gonna be someone? When that shit kicks in, so good! So good! How many times have I said I was gonna be someone? And it's just the vocal, and when I get back onto my feet. And there's just a new emphasis on the power of the words, of the syllables, of the words. It's the way that it comes in with that clarity, but it doesn't have to scream at you, it doesn't have to yell, I am, and I'm sorry. That's what it does to me. This is what happens to me. The way that the emphasis is put on the words, the way that it flows down, and then and it's just... Oh my god! Because it goes from this kind of powerful singing, this powerful melody that you were used to hearing in the chorus, to kind of just this more statement of it, because the instruments get to draw back, and when it comes through clarity, it's more of a statement of, like, here I am, this is me, and it's very internal, right? But it's an external expression of the internal, which is just what music is. Chey, good job. But I just love the cadence and the emphasis on this little portion of the words so much. I'm gonna play it again. Just, I don't even care about copyright. It's so good. I just need you to hear it. It's my favorite part in the entire song. And then when the instruments kick back in, and it's just this, like, kind of energy on the syllables, on the words, on the punchiness of it, it's like, oh boy, don't even get me started. And there's something a little bit more lax about this, whereas like, it was, I don't want to say party, but it is kind of like a party, it's kind of like ebb and flow to it. Now it's kind of more of like, not chill flow, but it's a little bit more of like that self-confidence, like, hell yeah, we got this, like, vibe to it. And I love it so much. And that's how the song ends. Shut up. I love it. I love it. Okay. I think I need a break. I think I need a break. This is not going to be filmed in 2 days. It's not going to be filmed in 2 days, but I gotta get it done for tour. Whether I slowly descend into insanity or not. I'm also going to take this shirt off, because it is, after screaming and causing a ruckus like I do, being a little rapscallion, it's toasty. But now you must return to the ether. I just put on my freaking Bad Omens hoodie, or like an Asking Alexandra hoodie, and I'm like, this is what I'm wearing now. This is who I am. This is real. This is me. I'm spending too much time talking about bare teeth. Gonna let the light shine on me. The blooper reel is gonna be longer than this freaking video is. How many times have I said I was gonna be someone? I want a jazz version of that now. Or swing version. How many times have I said I was gonna be someone when I get back onto my feet? Tomorrow I'm gonna make changes, 'cause today I can barely speak. And it's gonna hurt like hell to set myself free. That Cheese dude? Richard Cheese? Make a Better Me cover, please. What's up? We're back. After a short intermission break and 32 pages of notes later. Yes, I finally gave in and decided to start making notes, and it took up literally all but about 3 pages of this entire notepad. Yeah, I'm not kidding. You think this is not a joke. It's not a joke. It's not a joke, Tim. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. This is what I've been doing all day, so now I'm hoping that this will expedite this process for the next 7 songs and get us the heck out of here. We're gonna try and speed round a few of these. That's kind of why I have the notes. That way I don't have to keep questioning myself if I missed anything or not. Might Love Myself. I love this song. When it first came out, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. Not because of anything. I mean, yes, it sounded different. But that wasn't necessarily why. I was just like, I don't know if I can really relate to this kind of message, so I don't know how much, like, I can enjoy this song, like, embody it, because I don't, you know, I don't know. I don't know if I can vibe with it. Like, I'm happy for Caleb, I'm happy for the band, but I'm just like, I don't know if this is gonna be for me. But you know what? Even when I'm not feeling those vibes, even when I'm not feeling that kind of way, this song gets me to feeling that kind of way. Because I've always loved the sound of it, and I've always loved the lyrics and everything with it. It's just the message of it that I was like, I'm behind it, and I'm supportive of it. I'm just like, I don't know if that's... I don't know if I can partake, good sirs. But seriously, like, every single time I've listened to this song, it's just been able to put me in a better mood. 100%. Alright, speed round. Might Love Myself. The way the vocal first draws your ear in, it's that soft effect at first, then when it kicks in, the cadence of the words is so satisfying to end off the beginning of the song, to draw you in, and then just, think I might love myself.
Think I might love myself.
And 2 overall notes, the vocals, the bass, Lord have mercy. It's kind of a joke, but it's kind of not, because the bass playthrough of Might Love Myself, I mentioned earlier, is just, I don't know why, it just tickles my synesthesia. That, I don't want to say it like that. It makes my synesthesia very, very happy. It makes my little brain, my engineer brain, very happy. I have listened to the bass playthrough so much that YouTube Music put it in my top 5 of last year. In my top 5 promo. That was unexpected. That just... yeah, well, you know, so she fits. Whatever. But it was in my top 5. I think it was actually number 5 on my YouTube Rewind for YouTube Music. Just the bass playthrough. And then Might Love Myself, the song, was on, like, number 2 or 3 or something. Like a Villain was number 1, and no one is surprised. The bass tone. Whenever the bass playthrough of Might Love Myself came out, I sent it to one of my engineering teachers from Blackbird, who plays bass, and I was like, you need to hear this. You need to hear this! And he also loved it, so... You should go watch the bass playthrough and the original song if you haven't heard the song. If you haven't heard the song and you're just here, hi. So we get through this beautiful first verse, right? And then going into the chorus, I have things to say about the chorus. The never felt quite like this before. The instrumentation follows along behind it pretty much darn near perfectly, just elevating it.
Never felt quite like this before.
And don't get me started on the guitar sound following that. Yeah. Then something cool is in the second half of the chorus, the instrumentation is actually leading into leaving space for the vocals, which is a little bit different than what we're used to. So if you listen in the second half of the chorus, the leading into the lines, like as the lines start, the instrumentation is kind of heavy, the dun. Then it draws back just in time for Caleb to, chemistry is changing. Specifically, chemistry is changing, emotions rearranging.
Chemistry is changing, emotions rearranging.
It leads into space to back up and give space to the emphasis on that vocal part, which, I don't know, I thought it was cool. I thought it was a little tricky. I thought it was cool. And kind of second to that, the out of my cage, breaking my... excuse me. And kind of in conjunction with that, the out of my cage, breaking my spell, the drum, the emphasis coinciding with the vocal and the drum on those words.
Out of my cage, breaking my spell.
Makes me happy. Makes me happy. It's a joyous occasion. It's very joyous for me. I told you we're kind of speed rounding this. It'll probably go more in depth later, but I'm trying. I just want to note one of my favorite lines from this song, which is just, it's like butter to my ears. How long am I gonna be young and lost? Beautiful line. Beautifully said. Beautiful line.
How long am I gonna be young and lost?
Also a sentiment I feel is very widely shared, especially in this generation. I'm sure has been shared for many generations past us and many generations to come, but very relatable. Relatable sentiment. Relatable content. And the instruments start picking up from this steady pace behind this second verse. And you can tell when they really start getting into gear with the might never feel right, never be clear, but nothing'll change until I face my fear. The dunner.
Be clear, but nothing'll change until I face my fear.
It's picking up in conjunction with the vocal. And then we get this cool little transition, which had to be pointed out to me after my first time listening to it, and then when I saw someone comment it, and I was like, oh my god, how did I miss that the first time around? But in the first verse to the first chorus, we have couldn't happen to me, couldn't happen to me. And yes, the woo is going to be noted. Don't worry about the woo. The woo is going to be noted. But then we go into the second verse, and we have this altering mindset, right? This changing mindset to kind of embracing this new might love myself viewpoint. Because in the first verse, it's being reflective of how we got here, how we got to this point, how we've been feeling up until this point. And in the second verse is kind of a turnaround in that, being like, okay, instead of looking down like, oh, it's not for me, like I was when I first heard the message of the song, irony! It's a turnaround to, hey, you know what? Maybe it doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe I don't have to perfectly embrace or embody everything to just start, to even just try and start to make improvements. And this shows the pattern of that transition going from couldn't happen to me, that disbelief, to the start of a belief and the start of embracing, going, could it happen to me? Could it happen to me? Yeah. Woo. Told you I wouldn't forget the woo. The woo itself. Sounds so ridiculous saying like that. The woo itself. Again, I'm gonna bring up this concept of space until you're sick of it. And trust me, you are gonna get sick of it. Because this is another perfect example of it, right? Everything goes away to allow that perfect space to be able to appreciate the woo. It's perfectly spaced out to appreciate your woo.
Could it happen to me? Yeah. It took my...
Then we have this beautiful chorus again, and then the never felt quite like this before. It's paced perfectly with the vocal. The instruments are in stride with the vocal. It's so good. It's so good. My voice shouldn't have cracked like that. My voice is cracking like my mental capacity. And to kind of capitalize what I was talking about earlier on the out of my cage, breaking my spell, to kind of capitalize on that, to elaborate more on that, the beat for that, the out of my cage, brings your hearing kind of down and back, in contrast to Caleb's vocal kind of going up, kind of just tilting a little bit up on those vocal words. Yeah, that's what words are at Chey, they're vocal. In contrast to Caleb's voice kind of tilting up on those words, especially in this part of the song. Out of my cage, breaking my spell. So it's both emphasis and contrast. Okay, then we get to the absolute baddie part, baddie core. Sorry, I won't use that term in case I offend some people, but straight up, it's bad. Bad in a good way, bad in a sick way. The music gets real low, kind of like his volume, right? Like his vocal tone. Gotta make a choice, gotta push it to the limit. Never felt better, never making an apology. Then following him, it's the, I'm exactly who I wanna be. Just loud and in your face and f you to anyone who says that you can't love you. And that you shouldn't love you.
Making an apology. I'm exactly who I wanna be!
Then something kind of cool that maybe I'm just overhearing and I've been listening to these songs way too much. The end of this breakdown, and I'm not going to try to replicate it, I'll just play it for you. That kind of follows the pace and the cadence of the next lines that are going to be delivered. It's like a primer for it.
Took my body over, lost all my composure.
Never felt quite like this before. And then you have that riff. The way that his vocal, it goes back up to the high part of that riff, so that riff is just like trailing off as a continuation of it. I'm a Victorian woman overcome in the 1800s. Where's my daybed? Chase Lounge. What I love about this song's illustration of mixing and utilizing instrumentation in the mix is that it knows when to use the instrumentation to follow something, when to draw attention generally to something in the mix, to time it well in order to draw the most wanted attention to the most wanted point, and emphasize on it, and capitalize on it. It's so freaking good. Okay, as a last note, the love myself at the end. Rewind. Rewind. What a way to end it. Because you start out kind of not hazy, but in comparison to the end, it's not as clear. Then you just end with that clarity, and it's just the vocal going out. I pledge allegiance. Alright! Are you motherfuckers ready for Sunshine? That was aggressive. I'm sorry. Are you ready for one of my favorite songs on this album? It's Sunshine time, baby. The ADHD is coming out. I love Sunshine so much. You don't understand it. I love Sunshine. I'm gonna try and wear this while talking about Sunshine because it's kind of menacing to look at you like that, isn't it? There we go. He's gonna be menacing to you. I'm gonna try and save a lot of my personal anecdotes about the songs for the end of the songs, but Sunshine I'm gonna make an exception because I freaking love this song so much. This song, I can only dream as an engineer making a song that sounds this good to my ears one day. Because this song just, it captures what I love about engineering, different sounds that I love, different techniques, and just taking it from 0 to 100, multiplying the possibilities by 10,000 and just nailing it on every single level. When I was an engineering student, we were told by a lot of people that as you're learning to be an engineer, like especially when you're young, there's probably one album or a song, most likely an album, but also a song, either while you're training as an engineer or before you even got into engineering, that you pretty much chase your entire career as an engineer trying to make a song like that you love that much. And I think Sunshine would be that for me. Sunshine would be my song to chase to make one like that I love just as much. A lot of people don't like this song, and I'm sorry, but you're wrong. I'm kidding. I'm kidding! But I love Sunshine because I am such a sunshine girly. If it's sunny outside, it's a problem. I hardly get anything inside done because I need at least 30 minutes of sunshine time. My partner calls me a literal plant because I go outside and and there's plenty of video evidence on YouTube to show this. And I'm in my happy place. Just sun. Sun all the time. I need sun. Seasonal depression is also real. And I need sunshine. I need my Need my vitamins. So this song hits hard on a lot of different levels. Because without sunshine, I'm not a happy camper. I'm not in a good mental space. I need sunshine. I also just love fresh air and nature and being out in the sun and warmth. Sunflowers are also my favorite flower next to red geraniums. So double the sunshine, because I guess I'm literally a sunflower. I just embody my favorite flower, because what do they do when they see the sun? And that's just me. That's just me, for real, for real. I love sunshine so much I am gonna get it tattooed. I haven't yet, but you heard it here first. I hope by tour I'll have it tattooed. Maybe. We'll see. Alright, to the actual song. First off, we start off with going from 0 to 100 real quick, with the vocal taking center stage. I'm like actually losing my voice to "Killing my time with the dark inside." Vocal is taking center stage and also taking no prisoners.
I'm like actually losing my voice though.
Killing my time in the dark.
Then the next part of "the cold winds blowing, the lights not showing," that whole part before it gets into the pre-chorus. This whole part just sounds round to me, and here's what my synesthesia gave me. This part of "the cold winds blowing, the lights not showing, excuses piling up," this whole part, my synesthesia, what it gave me is how they spin on stage. And if you've never seen Tooth live, they spin. They spin a lot. My mom once asked me, do you think they've ever bonked heads whenever they've been spinning together? And I was like, I don't know, so have they? I actually have a clip of Ashi and Caleb spinning in sync from the last show that I was at. I'll put it in here in case you don't know what I'm talking about. But they spin a lot. And this part with the cold winds blowing, the lights not show, with the in the background, the image is like, it literally sounds like how they look spinning on stage whenever like they're into it and they're like doing their circle thing. And with those riffs going up and down, yes, it's very round to me, but it's also the sound of goosebumps raising. It's the sound of it's hair raising, it's literally the auditory equivalent of skin crawling to me, but not in a way that's disturbing or bothering. It's just really, really cool. In fact, it even kind of sounds reversed from something. I don't know what, but it's the kind of skin crawling that sounds almost like it's the reverse of something, like when you play a record backwards. It's in a way that sounds off to the ears, like it's off enough to make you go, what is that? But not off enough like the beginning of Psycho when it's like, and you're like, oh, danger. It's good. I like it a lot. And we get to the "I can't keep running, the end is coming," that first one. The drums on "the end is coming," holy God in heaven. I mean, for the entirety of this song, the drums, what the hell? I will be chasing making drum sounds that good my entire life. Do you hear me? The drums on "the end is coming" in the first part and then throughout the rest of the song, but especially right here is when I knew, when I first heard the drums on this part, my reaction was just the haha, I'm in danger meme. The da-da-da-da-da-da. So there's very much a lot going on right now at this point in the song. There is a lot happening. There's a lot going on noise-wise, instrumentally, vocally, there's just a lot. And during this part, there's like several layers of vocals and effects going on, and so when Caleb's voice is able to come through clearly, it's like differentiation / relief to the ears without being startling. Especially on the "I think I need some!" Alright, boys, girls, all configurations of being, here's where we're gonna get into a little bit of Chey's mixing masterclass, part dos. So as we get to the "I can't keep running, the end is coming, I think I need some, I think I need some," what this is doing in the song is it's leading into the remedy, both narratively and musically. So in this previous part, we see this cause of stress, right? This disturbance in our mental force. And this part, that "I think I need some," this is leading into the possible remedy, both lyrically and musically. Chaos to peace. When talking about a possible remedy to said chaos, to said causations. What is that peace? What is that possible remedy? Sunshine that would finally show. It's a transition from cause, what's going on, to effect, what can we do about it? And it's showcasing this musically because we go from this chaos of all this noise and all these layers and all this going on to the peaceful, like, really beautiful, really pretty acoustic.
I think I need some sunshine that would finally show.
It shows what can happen from to hey, this might be the outcome of this kind of possible solution of sunshine, of taking this action. This could be the difference. This is what it would sound like and feel like, and possibly the difference. It's showcasing that stark contrast and that stark transition. I also have a theory I'm gonna run by y'all, and I'm not gonna explain it. It's just, if you know, you know. But I have a theory that if you like Night Moves by Bob Seger, you will probably like the acoustic part in Sunshine. I will not explain why, I will not give further context, but I also believe the vice versa is true. If you really like the acoustic part in Sunshine, you will probably like Night Moves by Bob Seger. Not gonna explain it to you. I would love if someone could guess why. If anyone has any theories, drop them down below, and if someone gets it, I will tell you if you're correct. But I just want to see, I have a theory. I have a pondering. Now that's gonna drive people crazy. People who know both songs are gonna be like, why? Why? What is it? What is it? Don't worry about it, it's not that deep. Or is it? And as we're moving through the idea of this possible remedy, and we get to the I hear angels calling my name, musically, the background starts to transition along with the thoughts of transition.
Unfold. I hear angels calling my name.
And we already had this transition from what's causing it, what the heck's going on, to possible remedy, but now, here, we have this transition from pondering this possible remedy, the possibility of it, to taking action on said possible remedy, to actually implementing it. And musically, in the background, we can start to hear that transition once again. Because it's not such a stark contrast, it's literally just a transition. It's evolving from thought into action. It's combining both styles until the decision is done. And then we get the darkness, vibing with darkness. Let's draw solid our souls. And I just need to take a moment before I talk about this next part, because you thought I was throwing a fit talking about the drums at the beginning. Baby, you might as well call me Bachman Turner Overdrive, because you ain't seen nothing yet. The drums in the second verse. First of all, if you've never seen Connor perform this live, you're missing out. You're doing an injustice, a crime against humanity to yourself, because boy delivers. I'm acting calm, but how I really feel, I want to warn you that I'm about to go full feral just for a few seconds, because it's spiraling up inside of me like a shaken Coke, and I need to get it out talking about this part, because the ultimate drum part in this second verse, I scream every time I hear it in my car. I try not to scream around other people, but I just lose my freaking mind, because it's the ultimate stem for me, and I'm just... It's so dancey. It's just... It's so dancey and so vibey, and I'm just... I need to scream for a second. So I'm fair warning you to turn your volume down. Okay, you got it? I'm gonna scream. The drums on this part! The drums! Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Are you serious? You must be serious, because if you're joking, it's not fair. Honestly, the drums just... Okay, now that that's slightly out of my system, drums on this part are so fucking dancey though! It's so good! Holy I love the drums on this part. And I'm begging you to see Connor's live versions of it. There are videos, I will even link one down in the description below, just so that you have no excuse to miss it. But he kind of adds like a little improv, like a little shuffle in it whenever he does it, and I'm just like, okay, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. And it's like, okay, you talented mother... Bam Bam is really earning his name, as Mama Chey calls him. And you want to talk about getting even cooler, as if the song cannot get any cooler. Ironic for a song that's about the sun and is very hot. The lines, living in filth, can't look at myself cause I know what I'm gonna say. The riff that punctuates after those two lines sounds like they're talking in response to these lines. The instrumentation is alive, and it's responding. Living in filth, can't look at myself, cause I know what I'm gonna say. It's like saying, seen what? It's carrying on the conversation. And the answer is the spirit I lost, the years it cost, the reason I'm scared to sleep. And then the guitar is punctuated again, like, so what? What now? Which is answered by the recall to, the room is spinning, the clock is ticking, I've finally had enough. Again, cause and effect. And lyrically, we go from the start of pondering, excuses piling up, I think I need some, where then, remember, it went from peace, possible remedy, pondering that, to turning it into solid action, let's try selling our souls, to now embodying that I gotta be committed line, and going straight into no longer pondering that remedy, but actually taking action on it. Not pondering taking action, not wondering about it, actually doing the action, doing the dang thing. So instead of, like at the beginning of the song, going from that peace to transitioning into pondering that action and transitioning into taking that action, in contrast, this second time around, after deciding that commitment, it goes straight into blending the two styles. Because it's been decided. Chey cutting in here because I just had a realization that has blown my mind, and I don't know if it's on purpose or not, but oh my god. So I'm sitting here on the couch making my little notes for the video because I've decided that filming was taking too long, and so I was gonna go listen to the songs and actually make notes for bullet points that I want to talk about in the songs. You see these? Because I'm on Sunshine, and I just had a realization that I need to talk about because I don't think I can write it down and then get it right. Like, I need to talk about it while it's fresh in my mind. So I'm gonna insert this at the proper time whenever I get to the point in talking about this song, because the rest I can actually talk about. So, the breakdown in Sunshine, getting to the breakdown, where it's building up. I'm shaking at this. So when it's getting to the breakdown of Sunshine, when it's like, the end is coming! The end is coming!
The end is coming! The end is coming!
And it's just, you know, the build-up of the drums and the guitars, and it's just dun 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 dun, like, hey, breakdown's coming. I wrote both the vocals and instrumentation, I'd say, not only reflect the darkness, but desperation. It feels out of breath, heart racing, head full of noise. It feels like it can't go on like this. And as I was writing that, I was like, you know what? That's very similar to Riptide. That's very similar to the breakdown in Riptide, where it's just this, like, overwhelming amount of stuff that kind of reflects, like, heart racing, like, head full of, like, just a lot going on. And then, with the breakdown in Sunshine, with, like, all that buildup of all that stuff, the end is coming, the end, and it's just building up and up and up, and then it pulls back and goes, I can't keep running, the end is coming, dun, dun, dun. So it goes from that build up to the quiet of, I can't keep running, back into, the end is coming, breakdown, right? So, build up, pull down, smack down.
I can't keep running. The end is coming!
And I was thinking about how that's the structure of the breakdown of Riptide, and you're like, Chey, yeah, that's how a lot of breakdowns are structured. Listen! Listen to me! There's fucking genius at work here. I was so aggressive. I'm so sorry. But I'm so excited. So, in Riptide, it's that same build-up, and then the let it go. Down, 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 right? So the build-up, the pull-down, and the smack-down. And I was thinking about how, in that way, the two songs are extremely similar, right? Because it's like this buildup of panic and being overwhelmed, and then this pullback of this, like, moment of decision. This moment of confirmation, which I spent, like, a whole 10 minutes about talking in the Riptide video, so if you want to see the specifics on that song, how this relates to that, it's all in there, I promise. But for Sunshine, it's like the same thing. You have this buildup, and then this pullback, which is this moment of the end is coming. Like, it's, yeah, this is it. This is the moment, the crucial moment, just, like, let it go. It's that moment where it's that turnaround of, like, hey, yep, decision time. And then the smackdown, which is, like, the final battle, right? Before we get to the outcome of the decision and the final conclusion, kind of where we went to where we are now after making that decision. But hear me out, this is where the genius is at work. So I was thinking about how, yeah, those breakdowns are extremely similar and formulated, like, very similarly. And I thought, oh my god, it makes sense that Sunshine came after Riptide. Because Riptide was released first, and then Sunshine came after it. like in terms of actually releasing the songs, right? And it makes fucking sense. You want to know why? You want to know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because I feel Riptide is about making those internal decisions. Riptide is the internalization of deciding to make that change, of deciding to change yourself for the better, making that commitment internally, taking internal action, internal changes, mentally, emotionally. Sunshine, while talking about some of that, is more about the externalization of making that decision and making that commitment. Because moving, hello, think you need some sunshine. Sunshine, yeah, you could say light internally, but it's about, you know, like actual change. Taking that change into physical action, taking physical action. So Riptide is the internalization of making that change and commitment, and Sunshine is the externalization of it. And I feel like that makes sense, because to me personally, I feel like you have to make a lot of internal changes first, make a lot of decisions internally within yourself, for then the external changes, or to discover what external changes will actually follow and help you from that and will stick better after you make that internal change. And so the fact that Sunshine was released after Riptide, the internalization, and then the externalization, making that change, and then that, holy what the Caleb fucking Shomo is a motherfucking genius. I don't know if that was on purpose. I'm assuming it was. But holy shit, are you fucking kidding me? When I was about to write that, I literally like was looking at my phone and went, "Oh my god. I'm not okay." After realizing that, and the going from internal change to actually making the external changes to help the internalization. I'm destroyed. I'm destroyed now. Okay, we're gonna get back to scripted Chey. And my favorite part, I know, you thought the drums were my favorite part? I lied. If I said it was my favorite part, I lied. I don't remember what I said. I barely remember who I am. And then my favorite part of this song, holy God. Holy Lemmy. Lemmy above. I get so hyped right here that I'm gonna have to whoo it in. We need to talk about the echo chamber bit. It's my favorite thing. First, it's amazing because it's a drawback. It's a scale back from all the sounds of the breakdown. And it draws your ear in, and it's just like, okay, just you, alone with your thoughts. Relying on yourself. Making the decision. Making the decision to yourself. I just love echo chambers. I love the effect that this has on the vocal. It has such iso chambers, echo chambers. Listen, my mind is all over the place, okay? The isolated chambered vocal. I'm a professional engineer, can't you tell? I know what an iso chamber is. I love iso chambers, echo chambers, whatever. They were my favorite thing to use at Blackbird. Whenever I was recording my act, I was gonna say album, I recorded an album. Whenever I was recording my artist in Studio D, which, by the way, I didn't know that Disease was also recorded there, which the iso chambers in there, have mercy. I threw up a D19 in the ceiling, left the door open, and that's how I got a lot of my room sound for my drums. And vocals sound incredible in there, especially for really anything. I was gonna say like gospel choir or just reverb. I am a addict for anything iso chamber related. I almost used a non-feminist word. But I guess if you're reclaiming the word, it's fine. I'm still not gonna slay it. Because I'm trying to back down on my cursing in this video, which is not going very well. Back to the song. And during this part, when it's like, sunshine that would finally show, we have the guitarist coming back in to answer like, and? And it's interesting in the relation to Riptide even further, because it's this switch that we see from Riptide, where the mix, the instrumentation, sometimes took on its own role as a sort of antagonist. And then it sort of changed to like a helpful companion supporting our protag, supporting our narrator. And here it seems continuing to support it by asking, and other questions that will drive deeper thinking about this process, about this change and decision. It's like, and then an answer, I might die if I stay in this cold. It's the final word in the deliberation, and then we go back into this triumphant chorus of decision. I love this song. I love it a lot. Can you tell? Okay. Sunshine's done. I think I need some sunshine that finally show. Talk about time won't wait. Let's launch right into the next song. It's killing me, seeing what's killing you. Here's Chey's favorite saying. It's one of my favorite songs of the album. But no, it's true because I almost got this tattooed on me. I did get one of the songs from the album tattooed on me, and I'm planning on getting some more. Well, I've already said that in this video, so I can say it. But I almost got this one tattooed on me to begin with, for my first ever tattoo. But then, literally the night before, I had a dream where, it's kind of a spoiler alert, but originally I was gonna get this specific design I had in my head, and the top was gonna say "Time Won't Wait," which is a reference to this song. In the end, I had a dream, literally the night before, that I got the tattoo, and it had different lyrics from another song on this album, and I woke up and I was like, oh my god, that's so much better. So that ended up being what I got. That is not to say that I will never get this one tattooed. I don't know why I did this. So the intro begins kind of dreamy, kind of in limbo along with these lyrics. And as the lyrics get more kind of stern or assured, in at least their tone, so does the instrumentation. From vague-ish to more solid. The accentuation of the drums on "Tomorrow isn't always there."
Tomorrow isn't always there.
Then the "fuck 'em up." Oh! I mean, yeah, that too. But, like, that was my reaction to the "F 'em up" line. But yeah, the oh, like, y'all, why is this album just whiplashing me back and forth between all my happy years moments? Because the drums come in leading us up to "Tomorrow isn't always there." Come up! Oh! It's a scale back to draw you into the vocal, and then it's just slamming right back down into the music with that oh! It's like a second cathartic release to that "come up." Because in that build-up, the "come up" is kind of like a little mini cathartic, like, pause of its own. Like, hold, and then, oh! It's just that, like, it's like, let's fucking go. It's a call to action. Then as we drop in with the oh, and it goes in that little part where there's like a musical part, no vocal, where it goes oh, that part. The instrumentation in this part follows, or seems to say, this pattern of panic, starting with the riff going ee, then wow, as like oh no, and then finally wow wow wow, like going down into a spiral. And that's kind of the pattern set up for the incoming narrative as well, like oh crap. The first verse, alright, this song, holy hell. If there's ever been a song that is an anthem of ADHD, at least in my experience, this is it, y'all. I want to be in the moment, but the moment's past. I try to make it forever, but it never lasts. Remember all the stories, but they're fading fast, and now I can't stop staring at the photographs. Yeah. All my ADHD peeps, you feel attacked? You hanging on out there? So talking about this pattern and the realization of, oh crap, I try to make it forever, but it never lasts. All the way up to hopelessly pretending I'll always have more time. That's the oh crap mixed with the oh no part. So here's where we get into the spiral portion of that. The spiral off the bottom, if you will. For me, it's personally very relatable to like my neurodivergent trauma spirals, where it's this sudden panic, where it's like, oh hell, oh hell, oh hell, oh hell. But you're so energetically down, yet your heart is like, hello? We should be freaking out, but like, we don't have the energy, like the mental, the emotional, energetic capacity to, because your brain is like in this freeze stasis.
Don't know how to feel, nothing I can do.
It's very much like the image of the world in slow motion around you while you're the only one like in real time. And it's very atmospheric, it's very on point, because with that vocal just there, that's the only thing taking up space. That's how it feels when this feeling is occurring to someone. Is it's just like, it's like all too aware. It's all too aware of the self. And it's kind of constricting in that way. Even though audibly it sounds like there's space, it's very narrow, it's very constricting in the emotional charge of it. The don't know how to feel, nothing I can do. And the music that comes in like and intersperses with that are that panic that I was talking about, like demanding your attention, while then that ticking clock suddenly comes in, encroaching on that space.
Don't know what to think, can't believe it's true.
And I think you could say that it's metaphorical for time itself is still ticking away, showing the realization that time is passing by and time will continue to pass. No matter how energetically drained you're feeling, no matter how slow or fast you're feeling in a panic, no matter if you're feeling depressed, happy, time is still always passing. And leading into this chorus is just catharsis, audible. It's that lowered, sunken down tension just within that, not whispering, but in that lower vocal, just brought forth into the light. Whoa, it's killing me, seeing what's killing you. Just a really good, makes sense expression of that. And as we're moving into the second verse, there's like a little guitar climb into the second verse. And yes, it's a climb musically, but it's also like symbolizing a little climb out of that stupor to actually trying to verbalize and work through the feelings of this worrying realization about time. Like trying to come to peaceful terms with it. And these next lyrics, I fucking love so much because I don't think I've ever been so assaulted audibly in my life. Just absolutely called out viciously. I sing this part a lot to myself. I sing it a lot at home because it just lives in my head rent-free because I'm like, that me. That me? That me. That me. Oh, that's me. I know how I can be when I'm stuck in my head. Disappear into the night where I try to repent. I'm sorry for all the time that I never spent in the world instead of laying face down in bed. Trying to find out the ending while the journey's left behind. Hopelessly pretending I always have more time. Yeah, I love that whole entire part, but specifically the first few lines of I know how I can be when I'm stuck in my head, all the way to I'm sorry for all the time that I never spent in the world instead of laying face down in bed. The flow and cadence of those words.
Know how I can be when I'm stuck in my head. Disappear into the night where I try to repent. I'm sorry for all the time that I never spent in the world instead of laying face down in bed.
Honestly, it's one of my favorite parts I've ever heard sung vocally in a song. Ever. It's just so pleasing and nice to my ears. It's like a warm blanket, if there was such an equivalent, for such a comforting subject too. Or I should say, trying to comfort for such a subject. And it's like a slow acceptance build of self-assurance, coming to grips with the situation along with introspection. Now instead of a spiral, kind of like at the beginning with the quiet, don't know what to think. And in contrast, now as we get back into the don't know how to feel part, it's not like it's pondering or thinking like the first time. Now it's more of like a I statement. You know, like the I statements they use in therapy or discussion groups a lot. While they're not I statements, they're now being said with the tone of like an I statement. The presentness of it. It's like the 7 stages of grief in this build up, in this lead up of acceptance building into confidence. It's more of an exasperated kind of exclamation rather than head buried in the hands being like, don't know what to think, can't believe it's true. Now it's more of a don't know how to feel, like
Don't know how to feel, nothing I can do.
and then we come back around to the beginning statements of the song, which make even more sense now that we have all this context, and show even more of a contrast between the journey from then to now. Whereas at the beginning, these statements were said with sort of an ambiguous outside the personal situation vibe. They were stated as like known facts of life, kind of like common sense. But they didn't really feel internalized or finalized internally. Now they're being asserted with the confidence and veracity of embracing it like a call to action rather than a spiral, being like, if I think about it for too long. And we get shown this going from the screams to a more clear but confident reassertion rather than the soft-spoken kind of verbally shaken first go-around.
Don't know how to feel, nothing I can do. It's killing me. Don't know how to feel, nothing I can do. It's killing me.
And at the ending, it has this extremely honest, not super hyped up vibe, Because not every realization, especially the fragility of time and the toll it can take on all of us and what we have to deal with during that time and then the aftermath of all the tolls that it can bring a super amount of, hell yeah, joy. It's more like a confident realization of puzzle pieces clicking together, of something internal finally making sense. It's like a little bit of peace about an internalized struggle, or at least a better grasp on it. And honestly, that's exhausting. And it's not that this song ends off sounding tired. It's just the point that it doesn't end sounding super hyped up. I feel like it's very real to the equivalent of coming out of this big slump, or at least attempting to, and doing something, and then giving this, like, sigh of satisfaction that also says, this was a lot of work, but it's a start. It's an audible, look the other way. I don't have any memes about this song because I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm not gonna try to meme this song. Don't worry, I'm not gonna be super boo-hoo-hoo, but I don't feel like making memes of this song. First off, I have to say as a legal disclaimer, this is Mama Chey's favorite song besides The Better Me. And I told this story in the vlog, but whenever I went home and I was listening to the album and I was listening to Look the Other Way, I was like, my mom hasn't heard this yet. She needs to go hear this. So I went in the living room and I was like, I have a song off the new album to play for you. And she was like, okay. And so I just hit play, and literally it didn't even get to the first vocal part yet. It didn't even get to the first word spoken. Within the first 20 seconds, even first 10 seconds, she said, pause it. I was like, okay, that fast? And so I paused it, and she was like, it's the best song he's ever written. And I was like, huh? You hadn't even heard it yet. She goes, I don't have to. I just know, one of the best songs he's ever written. So, Caleb, if you're out there, it's one of Mama Chey's favorites. And I said then in the other video too, but like, coming from Mama Chey, who is the woman that told this band, that told Caleb, I love your drums and I know your drums because it sounds like you're beating someone's fucking head off. For her to say that about an acoustic song says a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it did make me cry the first time I heard it, and I have cried subsequent times after hearing it, and you know what? I'll continue to cry sometimes at hearing it. When the album first dropped, this song hit a lot of people hard. People were talking about it, and I will admit I do have a skit about it coming up, but please know that I do respect this song and take it seriously. Just know that as a pretext for the skit that will come out sooner or later. But this song hit hard for a lot of people, including me, you know, in its vulnerability and relatability, and not having to compromise on one or the other to achieve both. Especially the back half of the song, like, I guess you could say the third verse, it really hits home for me. Like, I sent it to my partner, and he was like, yup. And then, you know, we had a good discussion about it. But anyway, no memes or anything about this song. It's beautiful. It starts out simple, and it's an honest and fitting continuation of the previous song. This is like having to sit down after that sigh and think about more in relation to what you just realized, to that realization that you just had, that thing that you just came to grips with. That exhausting emotional endeavor. This is the song equivalent of having to sit down and just take a moment to kind of ponder through that and think about that and to where that's led up to until now. You know, like the song talking about two people in conversation, like a dialogue between two people. I could see how people might say that parts of What's Killing You sounds like the other person's POV of the song. I can see why people say that, if they are saying that. Maybe I'm the only one that's pondering that. But back to this one. I'm gonna read straight from my notes because I think I put it best in my notes. It's a sit-down, drained talk to self, because even after all kinds of decisions and realizations can be made internally and externally, it still takes some very heavy, hard, and honest reflections and conversations with yourself, and sometimes others, to keep doing that work, to further that work. And it, while a lot of times necessary, can be draining. It's hard. So the acoustic as a choice is not only just a beautiful choice sound-wise, musically, but it's stripped down, like the conversation with yourself or one-on-one with someone else. It is what it is. Simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication, as Da Vinci said. And then as we're moving through the first verse, there's this slow incorporation of more instrumentation as more is being revealed in this self-dialogue.
Go off the rails every chance that I'm given.
And it's not so much confidence in the self-assured way, but confidence in, like, sticking to a choice. In choosing to tell this, and choosing to confess, and delve more into it. And it's having a confidence in trusting to confide in someone as well, even though it is kind of pleading. It's, of course, especially shown in the chorus, you know, this kind of pleading look the other way. Even though that is also where we see the confidence and the trust to express that, to be that vulnerable. But my favorite part of the song is the part that audibly attacks me. And I really, really want to talk about it because I was just talking to a friend about it the other night, and I had this realization, which, again, speaks to the mixing powers and prowess of this album, because I have listened to the song a million times, and just talking to my friend the other night, literally last night? I think it was last night, I was like, I had this realization of, oh my god, and so I need to tell you about it. So as we're coming into this last verse or so, not falling asleep, wish my heart would beat slower. And it's like, thinking back on my year, wanna start it all over.
Not falling asleep, wish my heart would beat slower.
So why does this part audibly attack me? Because the strings kicking in. The not falling asleep, wish my heart would beat slower, and the da-na-na-na with the pounding of the drums. That's, at least for me, I'm gonna refer to my notes again because I don't want to screw up saying this because I wrote it down, I think, in a really good way. It's just like the auditory equivalent of feeling my heart when I'm having, like, a fight or flight, freeze, trauma, anxiety response, and my heart is beating really, really fast, but it also feels like slow motion trudging through mud, like if you grew up in a toxic household, and if you've ever heard a dish being washed or put away in your direction, and it's like this feeling of smallness, yet all too awareness of your presence, and being stuck while your blood is pounding but you just can't move and you're just aware of everything. And how the do you manage to put that in a sound, in music, in a guitar? How do you manage to capture that feeling in a sound? How? And that part in the song, it feels musically like lying in bed awake with your eyes open with those feelings I just talked about while you're kind of spiraling in your head, working through this internal dialogue, thinking about things, overthinking about things. And the music itself sets that scene, expresses that feeling before the lyrics ever do. And then we finally get to that climax of, I wake you up and I tell you I'm losing control. And it leads to this release, like this whole dialogue that has been building up internally of what to say is finally coming out. Which it's somewhat like, I hesitate to say relief, but it's definitely a weight gone. And as this is coming out, being verbally expressed in the lyrics, we have this counter in the music coming in, this counter of softness.
Oh, I'm picking up the pieces, please just look.
It comes in as an immediate response to that build-up as it's reaching its peak. The doom, doom, doom coming in amongst that build-up, amongst that climax. It's that immediate counter, it's that immediate response to that. It's another example of a musical conversation, and it's guiding us towards that response we're going to hear after this next Look the Other Way declaration and confession. And it's similar to, like, in which the other songs, whenever you hear the guitars or the instrumentation accenting or punctuating on the end of those statements, on the end of those sentences, remember talking about, like, and see what? This softness, this counter softness is doing the same thing here in that musical conversation, in that response. But it's not prodding, it's not aggressive, and it's accenting on the ends of these statements like, because baby, I feel like I'm slowly pushing you away. It's accenting as if asking, like, what do you mean? In a caring, not accusing way. And then, after this confession, after this declaration, it manages to get its own verbal response reflected in the lyrics. You said you'll always be right here to keep me company. And notice how now, after that softness, after the musical softness got its lyrical equivalent, notice how now that is the only music present. That softness, if you want to say, is the only music present. It's the only thing left besides the lyrics. There's no other instrumentation, it's just that counter of softness. Because that reaction, that response, that feeling, that's taken over. That matters. That has taken precedence. That response quieting the other side, at least for a moment, giving some space and relief. And the final lyrics of the song are responding in tandem with the declaration of that this is what matters, is that when I don't even love myself, you love me anyway. We're nearly there. Oh, we're nearly there. I need to crack my back. I'm so old. Okay. What are you waiting for? I'm not waiting for anything. We're gonna finish strong, and I'm gonna start reading from my notes, because we're just gonna fly past this, okay? First of all, I want to make a disclaimer, and no, I will not give context nor explanation. I'm just gonna flat out say this. Do not ask me to elaborate. But this song, What Are You Waiting For? This song, Won't Give It Up, and Thursday, the day, not a song, the day, all have the same vibes. I will not elaborate. What are you waiting for? We definitely need the count-in for this song. The intro, the count-in, we need it, because we're being dropped in just immediately, just parachuting out, 0 to 100, real fucking fast. The strings in the beginning of this song, the guitars, the bass, are just as raw and jagged as the vocalization, and it's like, we woke up and chose violence, okay?
Do you fit in your skin? Do you want to start over again?
And these questions, do you fit in your skin? Do you want to start over again? Do you get what you give? Do you want to start over again? These questions are not being asked for self-soothing. They're being asked as a swift kick in the rear, taking control, being damn straight about it, and running with it. Why? Because this is the point of all the past lessons of the previous songs starting to culminate. And this is one last come to Jesus self-meeting. It's asking, like, do you want to start over again, kind of rhetorically. Because you probably already have your answer to that question. So okay, let's go fucking do something about it. Stop twiddling thumbs, enough think, enough talk. It's time for some action. And it shows this when it asks later, are you out? Are you in? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Getting a little too hype, Chey. Rein it in. Rein it in. It's these questions, asking like one more time rhetorically, to the answers we already know. It's just confirming and leading into this swift kick in the rear. It's a process of call to action going from why to how. The why is given in your answers to the questions. Do you fit in your skin? Do you want to start over again? There's your why. Now we're getting into the how. Because your answer is, yeah, you want to start over again. And we're going to go from that to the how to make this happen. And in this first verse, I particularly love the drums in this build-up leading to the chorus, because it's like a ticking, not like a clock. It's like a fuse. It's like a lit fuse ticking down to the explosion.
Start over again. Do you get what you give?
The in a good way, explosion of confidence and acceptance of this new change. This hard-driving adrenaline that somehow also manages to sound like the heartbeat of a nervously excited decision-making process. And the explosion of the chorus that happens right after the drums. Oh my god!
Do you want to start over again? Come on!
Take me to church. Take me to church. I'm trying to speed through this, so I would just say leading into the second verse, shut up! Shut up! Shut up! And then in the second verse, we're asking questions again, round 2! But these questions feel even more rhetorical, getting into the depths of the why of your decision, reminding you of how you previously felt and your catalyst for change. And the drums in this part are no longer really ticking, baby. No, they're not just ticking. Now, they're more like nodding along to these questions that are being asked of you. It's more like, yeah, yep. Just like the vocal response that we're getting at the end of all these questions. You know, you get the, yeah, part.
Do you want to start over again? Are you out? Are you in? Do you...
The drums are kind of coinciding with that, being like, yeah, yeah. It also just seems to musically represent the listener. And then the, are you out? Are you in? The finalizer. Do you want to start over again? Come on. The chainsaw of this riff that happens right here.
Do you
y'all what my synesthesia gave me because it's kind of ridiculous and I can't replicate it and that makes me very sad. So this riff right here, what I see are chainsaw blades. Like the blades that you put on a chainsaw, or like the belt, whatever. I see those hanging from like a wind chime, but someone is grabbing the bottom of them and like yanking them taut. Like yanking them like taut tight. The like, you know. That's what this riff, that's what the gives in my brain. That's what the gives in my brain. Also, okay, also, I want you to notice something. I want you to put on your critical listening ears, put on your critical analysis listening ears, because there's something you need to notice. There's clearly a lot of things that I think that you should notice in this music, but in particular, right here, in this verse. So I was talking about how the drums are kind of like the yeah, and then there's like that musical like yeah in response at the end of the questions. I want you to notice how there's a yeah responding both musically, like in the drums, and lyrically with some kind of vocal effect, in response to every single question in this part, except for the question, are you out?
Do you wanna start over again? Are you out? Are you in? Do you...
There's no response, either drum-wise or vocally, in the form of like a yeah after that. No, there's not. There's no response to that question. Because no, we're not out. But are you in? Yes, we are. Cool. Everybody strapped in? Let's fucking go! And the solo, I mean, come on. That's just a dance break, baby. That's just a full-on, like... You gonna see me pulling some moves at the show. Like, for real, it's just a dance break. It gets me so hype. It's so good. And then we get to my favorite part of the song, and I want to show you what I wrote in my notes, because I think it's more accurately me than I could ever be. Do you see that? You see that? And then we get to my favorite part of the song. Oh God. Holy God. And that little picture right there, that's me doing this. Me trying to draw that. I'm not an artist. The guitars in this part, the dun 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 dun, they're like a fucking teasing, like, come here kind of gesture. It's like, come on, come closer, get closer. It's the auditory equivalent of like this gesture, like, come here, get closer. It's just like a barbed wire edged comb. And with this last line of questioning, there's definitely no doubt to your answers now. It's just catering to like why the guitars are like, come here. Like building to this excitement. But my favorite part is the fucking drums. Show of hands, who's shocked? No one. The accentuation of it, it's like the count off or a countdown to like a blast off.
Do you wanna start over again? Do you wanna start over again?
And now we just let loose. I mean, come on! And then that little acoustic reprise in the chorus is like it's like a McDonald's blizzard to my ears, but like on a hot summer's day, so it's like refreshing and it's just like really smooth and soft, but also like rich. It's another little perfect example of change it up to perk the ears up. And I think this falls in perfectly with that choral whoa moment of just full fucking sending it. Here's the part where I'm going to try to go fast because this is getting ridiculously long. My phone keeps running out of storage. It's driving me crazy. And I know you're probably sick of me. Oh, talking about the previous song as a last questioning, as a last confirmation of, hey, we want to do this? This song is embodying all of that. Utilizing it to turn and face outwards toward the future now that everything has been solidified. Now that we've made it through, we can look back and see more clearly where we were and are now. Face down on the pavement. And already the first verse is already such a catchy freaking earworm, it's not even fair. With that flow, it's gonna be a catchy hook. It's gonna be a catchy earworm. And going through this verse, it's leading up to that we've made all these decisions to change and get it locked in. But starting over? What does that look like? What do all these changes look like actually applied? Because talking about it and embracing it is a big part of the battle. But what does it actually manifest as? And it's that struggle with realizing that it might actually take time to show results. You just gotta stick to it. And then there's the embracing chorus. The chorus is our realization of there's no one way it should look. It's the comforting realization of your life manifesting as that through these changes, through these decisions you've made to better yourself, to better your life, can look whatever you want it to look like. It can be whatever you want it to be. Okay, and we're gonna speed run this from literally talking to my notes because every 2 minutes I am having to transfer and delete stuff off my phone. Alright, and then you can musically hear this sort of eureka moment when it comes to pulling back right before the chorus. Like, oh. I will say personally, I think the second verse is the most catchy of the entire song. And in the second verse, it's latching on to this new realization that the new reality they're being faced with isn't another point for another line of questioning or wondering about expectations or worrying about them. But it's taking it as this, oh hell yeah. It's reassured and growing in the confidence of its own making. In the beginning, without a guide on what it looks like, the possibility of a wide open future is not overwhelming, but it's exciting. And it starts to build up on that, like, party celebration atmosphere surrounding that realization. It doesn't audibly sound alone or narrowed or hazy like it does in the beginning. Now it sounds like more centered.
Check my wrist, I'm out of time. Why I got no patience with my emotion. Future's been refocused.
Yet open and dancey. It's freaking dancey. It's freaking dancey, alright? That's all I gotta say. And the little twist on the riff at the end of Don't Need No Condolence. That little twist on the riff.
Don't need no condolence.
Love it. Love it! It's a sweet spot and a sneak peek of that side effect of realizing and embracing that you get to make your life whatever the heck you want it to be while you can. Also, my favorite lyrics from this song are living like I got more life behind me than ahead. It's taking and flipping that concept of memento mori, taking it from being like constricting to inspiring. The next chorus feels like the first full normal breath of air, like fresh air that we've had in a while in these songs, like the first full lungful of a normal breath that we've had. And overall, just comfortable. And that, of course, leads us down the road to just full sending it. Not just embracing the open future, but snatching it and locking it in our grip and just taking control. No holds barred, no quarters given, no questions. And then getting to the breakdown, this is no longer a question. It's no longer questioning, it's no longer pondering, it's a declaration. The future's my creation. The future is my creation is its own manifestation, and it's wrestling all these ideas in. And then our last lap around in a lovely victory lap of a chorus, it's sort of like a soft smile to yourself, like, I did good, but without being, overt about it. Just like that self-satisfaction of like, yeah. It's showing more of that confidence in actions than ever before. Oh, we finally made it! We finally made it. When I finish, I'm gonna get some chicken strips and go to bed because we are at the final song. We are at I Was Alive. Finally, we made it. If you made it to the end of this video, I freaking love you. You're amazing. I love you so much. I can't believe I finally made it. Finally! Okay, let's get into it. So I have a lot of personal anecdotes with this song, as kind of referenced in the video earlier, but I'm gonna save that to the end of this review. That way you don't have to listen to it or skip through it if you don't want to, if you just want to hear the review first. But I do want to mention this song literally changed my life. I mean, I got it tattooed. Yeah, surprise, if you didn't know, this is the song that got tattooed. I had a dream the night before I went and got it, and instead of the lyrics, time won't wait, I didn't just live. And I woke up and I was like, so I texted Frankie, my tattoo artist, and I was like, can we do that? And she was like, abso-freaking-lutely we can. And she absolutely crushed it. And I love it a lot. It means a lot to me. So yeah, I really love it. My first ever tattoo, and it's really special to me. Just like this song. And if you want to see the vlog of that tattoo thing, it's in the vlog. And I'll talk more about what the song means to me at the end of this review, but right now let's get into the review of the song. This might be my favorite song on the album. But Chey, I thought Riptide and Sunshine were like your favorite songs. Okay, yes, they're all kind of tied together, alright? They're all just sort of tied in the #1 spot. I can't choose. Firstly, the vocals throughout this song, holy god, my ears are so happy. I won't even get into the specifics of it. They just make me happy. Alright, here's where we're gonna read from the notes, boys and girls. But the starting into the song feels like taking a walk in silence with yourself. And that kind of subverts the expectations of a possibly somber song, because we're no longer letting the passage of time scare or intimidate or freak us out, right? As hinted in the last song, Don't need no condolence. It's Hey. We have our own chance to make our life what we want to make it, however we want to. This song is the culmination of that, saying, hey, it's our life. We can do whatever we want to with our lives. And that's really freaking cool. So we better make the most of it. This song is the full-hearted embracing of that idea. Not just looking forward, but looking forward enough to kind of start thinking backwards. Thinking backwards from the ultimate endpoint in life, death, and how at that point, how you want your life to look, looking back from that point. And to get it to that point of how you want it to look when you're looking back at it, what do you have to do now to get it to look like that now, looking forward? Well, you have to do it by embracing living life to its fullest. It starts with my favorite kind of self-promise, not gonna be on my deathbed, knowing I'll be buried in regret. And it's looking forward at what you don't want, so you can know what you do want, loudly and proudly.
Not gonna be on my deathbed, knowing I'll be buried in regret.
And that way, you can promise to yourself, there's no need to fear the end. And here's why. Because we're gonna make sure that we do all this stuff that we do want, that we want for our lives. So there's no need to fear the end, because here's why, here's what we're gonna do, here's what we're gonna make sure to do to make our life the fullest that it can be. Here's how we don't want to be remembered, so here's what we're gonna do to be remembered and do the things that we do want to do. That way, at the end of the line, we're like, hey, no regrets here. I went through my life making it what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. So I got no fear of the end. To the now, and being like, yeah, well, if you embrace that now, there's no need to fear the end, because you're promising to yourself to make those changes, to embrace that kind of lifestyle. And so, here's why there's no need to fear the end. Here's what you're gonna do. Chey, make that make sense. And launching into the chorus, I'll know I didn't just live when I die. Like that whole declaration, that whole beautiful statement and sentiment. It's determination of the highest caliber and of the utmost importance. I mean, literally life and death. And then the second verse elevates it lyrically and musically. It starts getting more specific about what you don't want. And overall, the song is just more driving, more loud, more filled with sound. Like a metaphor for just filling your life with life, deciding to fill your life with life. That way there's no need to fear the end.
Not gonna be on my deathbed, wondering why I was always scared.
The song is getting filled up just like hopefully your life will be with experiences. It's embracing that attitude, that change, embodying it, showcasing it, both in the attitude of the lyrics and musically. And it's getting excited about the promise of the probables ahead. This is how it's gonna be and what there is to look forward to. And we drive through that chorus, just really driving that point home. And then we pull back. It's a very kind of just, yeah, it's been full of life this whole time, and the music has kind of embraced fulfilling, like it sounds like it's full of life. It's full of, well, living life.
No need to fear the end, 'cause I'll know I didn't just live.
And now we just have this step back, this zoom inner moment, this zoom internally moment, where it's taken from being an excited declaration to more of an inner mantra. No need, just, you know, reiterizing to yourself the point of all of this. Just driving the point home. And then fully fucking embracing it. I would say going through like this bridge, this part is like, yeah? Yeah. Yeah!
I didn't just live when I died.
It's making a choice and knowing you made the right one, and nothing has ever felt righter. Vocals play the prime actor, but instruments elevate it, almost singing along like the backing of a choir in this part. The pullback and repetition to yourself is almost like a, huh, I'm really feeling this. Almost kind of in disbelief that this is happening after everything. But then there's realizing that you believe in it, and you love it, and you're ready for it. You're ready for the life ahead, and that is so freeing and exciting. I know I haven't mentioned much of the instrumentation this time around, and I know I'm going pretty quickly through this song because I've been here long enough. But in terms of the instrumentation, it's because I feel like it's pretty steady throughout this song. In comparison to other songs on the album, I feel like the instrumentation is pretty straightforward comparatively in this one. It definitely feels like, hey, you need to pay attention to the message in the vocals of the song. You need to pay attention to the message more than us. There's a message being delivered and honed in on here, and that needs to take center stage. There's no waysides or distractions. This is it. this is the culmination of all of this, of the journey so far. This song really steals the show for a good reason. How we doing, y'all? Editing Chey here because I am not happy with how much I had to rush my I Was Alive review yesterday. But, that being said, I have sat here and I've been watching I Was Alive and I've deleted so much stuff off my phone that I have started writing a note in my laptop, and I'm just gonna run through some of the final thoughts on the album and a little bit more in depth to I Was Alive as quickly as I can, because it's just bothering me. It's my favorite song on the album, and I feel like that was lackluster, that review. I mean, yeah, a lot of it's still good, but I was like, oh, it was just a race against time, against my phone. I'm gonna put some more thoughts in here to make me feel better. I'm not going to set up my ring light in my room because I'm tired. And it's 5 p.m. on the day before I want to upload this, and I just went through my first round of editing. So, we're gonna get to my final thoughts on I Was Alive, some other final thoughts, and just final thoughts on the album overall. Let's go. The beginning of I Was Alive sounds like how I reminisce. The dun 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 dun. It sounds like reminiscing to me with these many like high points and low points, and it sounds not necessarily like nostalgic, but it sounds like if I had to give bittersweet a sound, that would be the sound of the word bittersweet. Besides just the sound of pronouncing it, Chey. And again, throughout this song, by the way, this just goes all over the place, okay? So bear with me, but here is the crux of my big point. And throughout this song, again, we have some conversation with the guitars that feel like responses to the end of the statements. But then, in the chorus, it sounds like they're singing along, and it feels like a full circle kind of moment, where, going off of my crazy train of thought, at times, remember, at the beginning of this album, the music, the mix, instrumentation, whatever you want to call it, it was like a character of its own, and sometimes seemed to be the antagonist, especially at the start of this album, working against our narrator protagonist. In songs like Riptide, especially, this is especially really prevalent. But as we come through the album, like in Riptide, where the music that was on the protag side finally won out because of the decision the protag made to let the light side win, you follow that? We start to see more of this friendlier side of the music, being its own character. As we progress through the album, it's like more and more of the music / instrumentation takes on a friendlier kind of role. It goes from interviewing or just aiding and supporting the narrator in songs like Sunshine or Doubt Me. Remember, it would ask, like, why and see what, to really trying to reassure the narrator and being totally on their side and trying to further them to the best that they could be. Almost like a mentor or just like a very, very supportive good friend. And by the time we get to the end of the album right here, the music is definitely no longer working against the narrator. It's a complete flip-flop from the beginning of the album. At least from Riptide. Or against the narrator, against us, I guess. The music is just working with us, in tandem. Following at our pace, not just in spaces, like I mentioned with the guitars following along with like the words or the percussion or whatever. No, in this song, it's not just in spaces. In I Was Alive, it's all the way through. And it feels right. It sounds right. It fits together. It's a unity. Like, it makes sense because there's like no longer a war in the self. And that's what we're hearing in the sound. It's no longer divided. It's whole. Because the war has been decided. There's no fighting over territory. It's whole. If I had to point out some examples in I Was Alive, which I have up on the TV, the die falling along with that, and then the step up of alive. Case in point, literally just listen to the instrumentation, often following closely along to the cadence of words in this song. Not just those examples, but overall. It's just all there, all together, right in step. But it's not a perfect copy. It's just a perfect complement. And finally, as a last comment on this song, before I get into overall thoughts on the album, that little zoom-in moment I was talking about, our little bridge, our little moment to self, where it's like, I'll know I didn't just live. That zoom-in moment, taking away that instrumentation just gets straight to the point. It just... I don't know how else to describe it besides just, like, the closing statement. It doesn't need anything to back it up because the statement is powerful simply for what it is, that it is both the thesis and the conclusion. And then, of course, it just launches us back in, so it's so good. It just makes me Makes me happy. Oh my god, okay, I love this song, and I'm gonna keep filming until my phone says that I run out of storage, which will probably be sooner rather than later, so let's try and make this quick. I'm gonna cry when I see this song live. I want you to be prepared. I will sob when I see this song live. So if you're near me in Nashville when this happens, I'm sorry, but I will be crying, because I almost cry listening to this song every time I hear it now. Both in good ways and, you know, mostly in sad ways, because here we're gonna get to the personal part, and I'll maybe add in a few sound tidbits here and there, but as I mentioned earlier, by the way, content warnings, mentions of death, self-versions of that, so if you're sensitive to any of that, I'll put a timestamp in to another part of this video. There shouldn't be much more to the end of this, but I'll put in a timestamp for your safety, and I'll give you a few seconds in case you're just listening on audio. But trigger warnings. Okay, good. You see the timestamp? You muted me? Alright. Yeah. I lost my uncle very tragically. Very traumatized from that kind of loss, just in the way that he went, and of course I won't get into details of that. Obviously, it's personal. But it was honestly one of the most traumatizing experiences of my life, the way that we lost him and the aftermath of that. And it was a very unexpected, just very, very sad death. And he was my last uncle on my mom's side. He was my mom's last living brother. My last maternal uncle, like, blood-wise. Very rough on me, because I was very close to him growing up. And I'm not gonna cry. But he was just full of life as a person could be. Just embracing life. I wrote something for his eulogy, and I don't remember the full words of it now, but I said that if the world could embrace looking at each other with just a fraction of the humor and love that he held, we would all be much better off. So he's the reason that I have my crossbows that I have. He's the reason that I have half the instruments I have in this room, because he would just come home from work on the weekends and bring me stuff. So, miss him a lot. A month and a half later, we lost him in July, and then in September, my cousin was there for the aftermath of that too, and it's just, you know, very close to him too. He was a really great person we lost way too soon. There's always, like, wish you could have been there for them. What could you have done? You know, those questions, and it hurts. But in a way, I feel like I've been primed for this, because I talked about in the other video, so I'll make short work of it here. I pretty much lost at least one loved one every single year since 2012. Yeah, starting that early, when I was like 13 in middle school. So I am very acquainted with death and mortality, and I have always felt like my time on Earth is just short, and I wouldn't live past 25. And obviously, because that kind of trauma and that sort of grief just warps your sense of the world very early on, and that's no one's fault. It's just the nature of, you know, trauma and growing up too fast and stuff like that. And, I mean, I went to the funeral home so much, sometimes Facebook texts me, and they're like, hey, you haven't visited this funeral home in a while, time to make an appointment? I wish I was kidding, it's morbidly funny. But I'm like, I hope not. Not anymore. But I've had this warped sense of mortality, being like, I'm gonna go before I'm 25, and I'm working past a lot of that. I've been dealing with a lot of that, and, you know, I've dealt with a lot of bad thoughts and bad thought patterns throughout my life as a result, and in conjunction with a lot of this stuff and a lot of other stuff, other things I've dealt with, you know, depression and undiagnosed ADHD and anxiety and bullying and stuff like that. And I talk about in the vlog, which please go watch the end of that vlog, where I will go much more in depth than I am doing here, because this is a review, it's not meant to be an event. But Beartooth are honestly, like, I didn't have a home, a community outside of my, like, just dwindling actual family. I've never found a community or a place that I felt as welcome as in the Beartooth community, because I was, like, always bullied for being too much or too weird, too loud. And I really shut down on myself and made my depression and all that kind of stuff worse. And, you know, did not look at life too favorably. Didn't look at the potential for my life ahead with much excitement, much less alone want it sometimes, to put it lightly. Some ending thoughts on my personal relation to this song and the album. I forgot to mention, it was probably implied in my talk, but With my warped thinking on the subject of mortality and all this tragedy that happened to me in 2023, this song and this album came at a perfect time for me. And honestly, as I mentioned in another video, I think it's come at a perfect time for a lot of people because the world has been so freaking dark these past few years, and especially these past few years. And I think so many people are seeing that there's so much bad already in the world, so much darkness, that people are like, why are we making it worse by being dark to ourselves too? I think a lot of people are ready to try and bring some light into their lives because of this, at least as much as they can. They're ready to be like, dang it, I'm just gonna have to do it myself. Because the alternative is clearly no bueno. And so I think this album embodying that journey came at a great time for it. And it especially couldn't have come at a better time for me, personally, with my warped view of mortality and honestly my just not being enthusiastic about life at all, to put it lightly. You know, after this past year, losing loved ones like that and just doing a lot of self-reflection, I really just said screw it. I flipped it on its head, kind of like this album. I do want to live, and I want to live as loudly and happily as possible, and I realize, you know, it starts with me being committed to that, you know? So, instead of looking at time as constricting, I flipped it to say, like, I may not have a lot of time left, so let's do this thing. Let's leave one hell of a story behind and make as many people smile as possible on the way. Okay, anyway, some final thoughts on this album. It's my favorite Beartooth album. I know, hold on to your pants. I think Disease has been dethroned, at least for right now. It shows a masterful use not only of lyricism, but of mixing techniques and especially musicianship. The usage of, and a little recap, the usage of space, of give and take. It knows not only how to build a certain flow, but when to capitalize on it, when to yank it back, when to give it back, when to throw us back, and when to gently hug us back. All while still being able to keep us engaged, but not jarred, and still up and rocking, even through tears, sometimes. It is just beautiful and minutely crafted from head to tail, and I love it so much. I'm very cautious about saying, like, a band saved my life. I'm uncomfortable with saying that for me. I know what people mean by that sentiment, but I'm uncomfortable saying that because I think that takes away people's own agency to make change in their lives. Like, that band, that song didn't actually physically save your life. You did that. You made the choice. They may have helped, I'm not doubting that, in, like, changing thought patterns and, you know, making you think about things and stuff like that, but I feel like people don't give themselves enough credit and enough agency in making those changes in their life. So I like to say that bands changed my life rather than saved it. Just me personally, no hate, obviously, to people who say the latter. But Beartooth really did change my life, like, completely around. That night that I saw them, October 5th, 2018, changed my life forever. Because it was the first time that I saw people acting the way I did to music, which I thought I was super weird for, and I got bullied for, and, you know, I was too much, and hated myself for. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. And I realized, like, I get it. Like, they get it. They get it. I remember just being in that balcony being like, they get it. Oh my god, they get it. And coming into this fandom, coming into this community, and just showcasing my weird talents, or my weird opinions, making videos like this that, like, would have scared me to death, pun not intended, a few years ago, or the Beartooth lore account, making all that give me so much anxiety and just imposter syndrome, like, oh my god, people are gonna think I'm so weird, this is too much, I'm too much, I need to back up, I need to step back, even though I'm really passionate about it and I have all this love and I genuinely want to share it, all these interesting, what I find interesting opinions and takes that I have, especially on music. I don't know if you can tell, I freaking love music, and dissecting it and analyzing it. And God help you, because there's going to be more videos like this about different artists and different albums in the future, because I love doing it. And I would question myself making this stuff, like making the jokes on their streams whenever they used to stream, making the lore account, making videos like this, the Riptide video I was freaking terrified to put out. But every time I do something like this, the fan community, the band, the community at large is nothing but supportive. They're so freaking supportive, and I'm talking to y'all are so supportive and encouraging. Every time I, like, say, y'all are like, more. And I'm so freaking grateful that to be accepted, and not only accepted, God, accepted's not a strong enough word, that just means like tolerated, to be like welcomed and loved in this community. I genuinely, this is the first like community that I've ever felt like belonging in, that I've ever felt loved and embraced. So just loved. I can't stop using that word. I feel really loved and embraced, and I feel at home. That's the best way to say it, is I feel at home, and I've never quite felt that about a community before, besides, you know, my own family group. I always had friends throughout school, like, but very tight-knit groups of friends. I've never had, like, a group of friends. I've just always had, like, you know, my 1, 2, maybe 3 sometimes people. I've never been a part of, like, a larger group. I've never, like, fit in or been kind of welcome there, because I've always been the loud, the weird kind of girl that you're nice to. She's nice, but she's a lot. So, you know, and I still feel bad, and I still deal a lot with the imposter syndrome and being a lot. I'm constantly nervous that I'm being too much or encroaching on boundaries, and I think that's just a side effect of my ADHD and anxiety and years of being told that that's what I was doing to people. So, but I've never felt that in this community. I've never felt that ostracization or that, like, side eye of, like, yeah, she's nice, but, yikes, you know? It's always been nothing but love, and I'm so freaking grateful to call this, like, community, to call this fandom, bandom, a home. I love y'all so much. I love this band so much. I love music so much. I just love music, and I love talking about it. I love being able to share it. So, if you see me in Nashville with Mama Chey, please say hi. I promise I don't bite. Hopefully I will have a few more tattoos by then. I plan on getting a sunshine tattoo. And also, spoiler alert, I'm kind of planning on a part 2 to my first tattoo on the other thigh. Yeah, already have a lot of tattoos in the mix. My artist was like, you'll be back within 6 months. She's 100% right. But yeah, I just, okay, I'm gonna go. Thank y'all for watching. I love you so much. Y'all are the nicest community on the planet, and Beartooth, if y'all are new to Beartooth, if you're just watching this video because you watch me or you need something in the background to listen to, please go listen to Beartooth. Please go check them out. Support them and all their staff and all their people. They are literally the nicest people you could ever hope to meet. They're all just so kind and wonderful. They put up with me. I mean, come on. They encourage me to do this kind of crap. I don't know that I would go that far, but seriously, they are all super nice and super kind human beings, so please go check them out. Please support them if you haven't. If you like music videos like this, I do have other ones that are coming in the making, and I have a lot of other music-themed videos on this channel. Concert vlogs, analyzations, stuff like that, vlogs. I'll link the appropriate videos or playlist above, so down below, all that good stuff. But as for right now, thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you ain't heard from anyone else today, I love you. Love and peace. Bye!